Well, 35 states have got one, and the other 15 are just lame. 'Cause they don't have a city that goes by this name. But out of all the 35 Springfields, from the east to the west, Springfield, Missouri is certainly the best. Let me tell you all about it. Well, Springfield, Massachusetts has more people overall, and that is where Mr. Naismith invented basketball. But one thing they do not have, and neither does big old New York, is our bragging rights here to the world's largest sport. We got the world's largest sport. We're the birthplace of Route 66, the Queen City, where you can get your kicks. We got Bass Pro Shops and Cashew Chicken, Mother's Brewery. We even got our own Willy Wonka, Sean Askinosie. You know, Springfield, Illinois is most famous for Abe Lincoln. That's undeniably impressive, but this is what I'm thinking. Your own dead president is cool and all, but it don't cut the mustard when you got a hankering for some Andy's frozen custard. Oh, that stuff's so good. The Simpsons do not call Springfield Mo their home. That's supposed to be Springfield, Vermont, but I mean, who really knows? But no matter how much you love that show, I think you have to admit, Homer ain't the world's sexiest man. That's Springfield Mo's Brad Pitt. Yeah, Springfield's own Brad Pitt. So much good stuff in the 417. All these churches point the way to heaven. Got the Virgin Diamonds and MSU and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here in the crown jewel of the Ozarks. 35 states have got one, so the other 15 are just lame. 'Cause they don't have a city that goes by this name. But out of all those Springfields, from the east to the west, Springfield, Missouri is the one I love the best. It's the one I love the best. It's certainly the best. Don't you think it's the best?
There it is, Mr. Springfield by Mr. Paul Thomlinson right there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Unsung Screamers, episode number 86 on this day. May the 26th be with you.
Still, like he's been doing that for a year.
A returning guest.
A returning guest from episode 8.
In the new format.
In the new format,
Mr. Paul Thomlinson.
I've
There he is.
Meaning to get reformatted.
Format now. Format now.
Oh, my gosh. Could you turn me up a little bit over there?
Mm-hmm, I sure can.
Knob number 2.
The more me button.
Turn your knob up.
More me.
Touch his knob right in front of me. I mean,
right there.
We're friends.
We're friends, yeah. We share, whatever. So how you doing, Paul?
I am better than I have any right to expect that I should be.
You look fantastic.
Thank you. I feel good.
Good.
I feel really good.
Good.
I just had one question right out of the gate. What does it feel like to be Dean Daisy's guitar player?
It is one of the joys of my life to be Dean Daisy's guitar player. His buddy, his pal, his friend of these many years.
That's awesome.
Mr. Smooth, Mr. Down Low.
Smooth, man.
So funky you can smell it. Dean Daisy.
He's a cool dude,
He's
man.
just a cool dude, just an amazing human being, and a sweetheart of a guy. I mean, they just don't make him
Referring to your band Innuendo. Since last we talked, I think you've joined up with a few other little things.
Yeah.
So what's been going on?
A few things. Musically, like a lot. I mean, quite a bit. Fun stuff. About a year ago, I had done a couple guest spots with City Girls, the Eagles tribute, which is Roger Keane and Nara Keane and Rico Samuel, and Brian Pitts and Trish Kay and Eric Gwynn. I mean, those guys, and they were doing it for a while with different iterations, and I'd done a couple of guest spots. They said, come play guitar, and, I would love to play guitar, so I played the Dirty Laundry solo for them a couple times.
Oh,
and
heck
was like,
yeah.
This is fun.
Man.
And so then, anyway, they asked me to join full-time pretty much last year. So I've been doing that for about a year. We've had some fun gigs. Those are amazing.
I just saw some
folks.
videos of the last one in Arkansas. I think it was Arkansas or something.
Yeah, we had a big weekend last. We started in Arkansas last weekend. We did Arkansas down at Oasis on Friday night, and then I went to Kansas City and did a Yachtly Groove gig, another band I was going to tell you about.
Yep.
And then came back Sunday and we did another gig with City Girls here. So yeah, we've been playing a little bit and booking it out. So.
Nice.
So there's City Girls, the Eagles tribute, which is a lot of fun. You know, played slide guitar for the first time in my life because Joe Walsh was in that band.
Yeah.
Is in that band. Yeah. So I had to learn some of that. And Darcy Stevens. My God, I forgot Darcy.
Oh yeah, Darcy.
There's too many people, but Darcy's one of my favorite singers. My God, he's so good. Anyway, City Girls is one thing. I'm doing the Yachtly Groove thing, which is it's the M80s, which is a cover band from Kansas City, probably the biggest cover band in Kansas City. They do all the 80s stuff, incredible folks. But we played with John Ford Coley, that little record over there.
Oh, nice.
Of England Dan and John Ford Coley fame. We played as his band at Knuckleheads last year, and we're like, the kings of yacht rock. Let's do more of this. So we put together a little yacht rock thing and debuted that back in November, and we've been playing a few gigs since then. So that's fun. We're going to do some opening dates with Tommy Two-Tone, which is another thing I'm doing. Starting in June, we're getting a little mini tour: Nebraska, Kansas City, Tulsa, Springfield. We're going to be here on June 13th at the Riff with Papa Green Shoes.
Nice.
So lots going on musically. We're just having a blast. I'm doing Innuendo gigs coming up. We got June 4th at the Cellar, which you guys know about. Great new place.
Cool place.
Relatively new now. We're doing that at the end of the Tour de Beer, which is an interesting bike ride where they ride between microbreweries and stuff. And I'm not sure if that's legal, but probably
like bicycle,
right? Yeah, I don't know what the laws are about
no motors.
Where are the laws on
bicycling under the influence? But anyway, they're supposed to end up there, and we're looking forward to that. So I've been trying to think of a good bicycle song we could learn real quick. And the obvious one,
Queen.
Yeah.
But mere mortals can't do that. So I was thinking maybe we would rewrite Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. Beer drinkers and bike riders, or I don't know, something good.
Yeah.
But anyway, Innuendo there, and then we're doing Carries. We love Carries. We're doing that on the 18th. City Girls are going to be at Kiss on the July 30th with Left Arm Tan from Texas.
I've heard that name before. I haven't heard the band.
They're really,
are they fun?
Really good.
Nice.
Fun, really good.
Left Arm Tan.
Left Arm Tan. I know,
yeah.
right? That's
where did they get that name?
Immediately evocative, right?
Right? Completely know where that comes from.
Farmer's Tan.
Absolutely. I love it.
So anyway, lots going on.
I've heard the drunk driving thing's got mostly to do with motor vehicles.
That's what you've heard.
Yeah. There's a story, and I can't remember whose story it is. It might have been Sean's, where there's a guy tailgating, and I don't know if it was a Chiefs game or not. Doesn't really matter. Let's pretend it was.
Okay.
And he had a beer cooler. It was a cooler that he had rigged into like a tiny go-kart. And apparently, I don't know, they had some disturbances and some police were there. And the guy thought he'd be a real smartass to the cop and try to drive off in his cooler and actually got a DUI.
He got a DUI.
Riding his cooler.
Okay, then.
So I think it's got something to do with a motor.
That's being a little picky.
I think a motor's got to be involved.
Driving under the.
He said, "You're kidding, right?" And the police is like, "No, not now. Since you smarted off to me."
Right.
Gave him a ticket for it.
Gave him a ticket. Oh my gosh. So we have
Operating a motor vehicle.
a couple people here. Hi, everybody.
Motorized cooler.
Hi, Bev. And Brian's here. Brian Betancourt's here. Go Cards, he says. Noble Bowman says, yes, sir. My favorite Purple Rain singer, Dr. Paul.
Who said that?
Noble Bowman.
Oh,
Yeah,
man. That is one nice gentleman.
He is a super nice
Love
guy.
me some
Deb
Noble.
Shelton says, Dr. Rocklinson.
Hey, okay, so on that, I didn't make that up.
Right.
That was I think that was a Dan Strickland thing. When
Was it?
Shuffle thing.
Yeah,
we
He
did
started
Thursdays.
putting Rocklinson. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
So I was on Facebook the other day and I saw this, how they know you. And they send you ads for stuff. So they have these, the old brushed stainless steel amplifier cover or logos.
Yeah.
That you can make one customized. So, and it had, I'm not making this up, it said Robinson. And I was like, that's awful close to Rocklinson. So I sent them $30 and they're going to send me a Rocklinson logo.
Oh my God.
I'm going to put on one of my amps.
Brilliant.
I'm going to do a really bad job with my Makita and drill it into one of my, probably ruin the speaker entirely, like totally blow it. But anyway.
But it'll have created a new sound.
It'll
Yeah,
be
guys for
worth
being
it.
and Jody Guy says, "Hey, Paul, no big words, please. Paul's vocabulary is off the charts."
Okay, so he's advocating against my sesquipedalianism. I get it. I will refrain henceforth from sesquipedalianism and any such related pursuits.
8 syllables. I challenge you to put that in a song.
We should do a challenge.
Totally do that.
I bet you can.
Yeah, we should do a challenge between him and Joe Dillstrom.
No shit.
That would be pretty good.
Joe.
Right?
Joe's pretty good.
He could beat me at
pretty
math,
wordy.
though, for sure.
Yeah, he can get
He
you
could
in
do
math.
math, and he could beat me on the SATs, like with math and the vocab. So,
Dude is so super smart.
but sesquiped, yeah, I do have a song that's called "Irregardless," which used to drive me insane, but now
Right.
apparently is in the dictionary, and so my song is outdated, but not really because I will never, ever, ever
Accept that
and
word.
never. I will not back down. Irregardless is not a word.
It is not a word, children.
Anyway, I have a whole song about using
Irregardless.
words.
That's fantastic.
Using words wrong.
Using words that don't
You
be
know what I'm
using
saying? I mean, sometimes you use words and you get them right.
But then sometimes
Sometimes
you
you
do.
get them totally wrong.
Wrong.
Like
and,
wrong.
And then it creeps up on you.
1, 2, 3 times I told you. You got it wrong. Stop it.
Stop using that word.
Speaking of his songs, we played that one in the beginning of the show here, and all of the available music of Paul Thomlinson is on Reverb Nation.
Yeah.
So you just go to Reverb Nation. You don't even have to become like a member. Just skip that and go right to the search bar.
You don't have to?
You don't have to, not to listen to it.
You
but-
don't have to. And I
You
gotta
get
tell
more.
you, that's the, as I told you last time, nothing's changed. It's just a place where I put my demos and all my musings and brain droppings and musical
Brain droppings.
ideas. And some of them are demos and some of them are a little more fully produced, but it's just a place for me mostly to share. When I see something on Facebook where somebody says something about something that I've written a song, somebody wrote about government cheese recently, and I have a song about that. So I post a link to that. I'm like, really? And I feel like the guy from In Living Color wrote a song about it. Like, here you go. First song I ever wrote in my long career. Here you go. But anyway, so it's all just for friends and family. But I ain't mad about it if you want to listen to my stuff and give me some comments, help me make it better.
Certainly.
If you have collaborators out there who go, that's a good idea for a song, but you missed it by a mile, and I'd like to tell you how to make that better. I'd love to collaborate with you.
Right.
That's cool. That's it. That's
So it's cool. There is
a challenge
tons
out there.
and tons over there of Paul's music.
Stephanie Stevens says, "Hey, Paul, we're still married. Good job."
Oh, you know what? I married them.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was a wonderful highlight of my last several years. We got to get together with Donnie and Stephanie and just tie the knot.
Tied
and
'em.
apparently, I tied a good knot.
You tied a good knot.
I was a
and
Boy
toy.
Scout,
Nice
and I learned
toy.
how to tie some knots. But that one, the metaphorical one,
That's great.
is tied up good and tight.
Super good.
And
I
they
love
got
it.
a baby and everything.
Oh, that's right. That's
beautiful
right.
peoples.
It's better than my singing at weddings record. My singing at weddings record is not good. I've sang at, 12, 14 weddings, and I think 2 were still together.
So okay.
don't have me sing at your wedding.
On that point, Christian music wise, you remember, of course, Randy Thomas from Sweet Comfort Band. With Bob Carlisle and that whole thing. Anyway, his song "Just Like Me." Do you remember that song? He wrote it to propose to his wife, which I didn't know. I thought it probably was successful, so I used it to propose to my first wife, and it worked. Then the marriage didn't after 5 years. But anyway, I met him at SBU and they played there, and I was like, man, I was still married to her at the time, and I was like, I used your song "Just Like Me" to propose, basically to propose to my wife, and he's like, I'm glad it worked for you. I'm like,
Oopsie.
oh, I'm sorry. I poured a little salt in the wound. I'm so sorry, Mr. Thomas. I'll shut up now.
I'm gonna go over here.
I'm gonna shuffle off the buffalo. Shuffle off the bubbler.
Shovel off the bubbler.
Anyway, where were we?
Oh, I don't know. We were just hanging. Oh.
And Brian's here. What a good dude.
And that's right. There's the two that still lasted. Matt Stewart, I sang at theirs. They're together. And then my stepmom, Bev, I sang at their wedding with my dad. So, and they were together till.
And I used to also think, by the way, if you're doing that and before the wedding, it's a better thing. Like the premarital counseling thing, I was pretty good on that deal because a lot of folks I talked out of getting married and they did not get divorced.
There you go.
As a result,
success.
Prevention.
There you go.
An ounce of prevention.
Preemptive counseling.
A pound of cure.
It's kind of like birth control. It's like, okay, we can handle this a lot better if it never happens in the first place. It's a lot easier to handle.
I could not agree more.
Let's just not make it happen in the first place. You know, that's interesting, though, with premarital counseling. I bet you see a lot of that. I bet you see a lot of people that you're just like, they shouldn't do this. But how would you encourage them not to?
Well, one of the things I used to always do is I want you to list everything that you hate about them right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, are you kidding me? I love him. Everything about him so wonderful and special.
Right.
I'm like, okay. So it takes a minute, but you finally get them to, oh, well, I guess I could get him to stop. If he would stop X, Y, and Z, you get a whole list of them. And after a while, you get that. And then I'm like, okay, what you need to do right now is make the commitment to love them 100% and never, if they never ever change another thing about them, that you're still 100% in this thing. And, you know, you can live with them and support them, love them every single day of your life for the rest of your life. It has a way of kind of bringing people up short a little bit because, you know, they do have the rose-colored glasses of love and romance a lot of times. And so it's like, you know, that's a good way to kind of bring them to the reality of love is about, you know, loving another fallible, flawed human being for the rest of your life.
Right.
Marriage is about
marriage,
that.
yeah.
And so if you want to get the government involved and, you know, sign on the dotted line, you really need to make sure that you're okay with all that whole list of things that you just now said irritate the crap out of you forever. And
especially already.
Already.
Yeah,
if
it's already bugging you.
Yeah, the bloom is still on the rose and you're still getting bugged by 15 things. We now have a list. But anyway, Jody said, I'll see you on the 13th. So yes, Papa Green, as I mentioned, is going to be playing with Tommy Two-Tone, which I'm going to be on guitar with. So I will get to see my brother.
That's awesome.
My tall brother.
Julie Lake Cobb is here. She says, hello, I'm finally here. Hi, Dan. Hi, Tara. Hi, Paul.
Hey.
Do you know Julia?
I do.
Yay. She's awesome. She's a fun sort of person. Aw. And then my stepmom's saying that she married the best man ever. Yeah. Because my father just passed away last month. So
I'm so sorry. I saw that.
Thank you.
My heart and mind were with you.
Appreciate that very, very much. So what you got?
Well, I'm assuming that Paul might be on too high of a level professionally to.
I doubt it. Whatever you're about to say, I'm going to say nope. To let us know his thoughts on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Did you put them through the list before they got married? I did not, you know, and I feel bad. I've got texts from friends of mine recently. And they're like, "Did you see what happened yesterday?" I'm like, I am not in this.
Right.
I've only seen it. My only involvement has been I went to a coffee shop recently and I saw the tip jars were Team Amber and Team Johnny.
Oh my gosh!
And Team Johnny had a lot more tips in it. So I'm thinking whatever it is, the public sentiment in Springfield was leaning toward Johnny. But I don't know a lot about it. And I've seen maybe one of the best memes of all time, which is the Amber Alert, which is the turd in the bed, which I understand is that's funny. I don't care who you are out there. That's funny. But no, I really don't know a lot about it in order to opine about it. And certainly, and one of the things that psychologists have to be careful about is opining about public figures that they have not personally clinically examined.
Right. Sure.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, there's a lot of shit.
They should have talked to you before they got married.
Yeah.
and after the divorce, I mean, I could still talk to them. I'd really love to talk to both of them.
Yeah.
Based on the little bit I've seen, you know what? There are ways to prevent that kind of rancor and awfulness. And
I think that was more of my overarching question. I'm kind of just kidding about the specifics of their case, but it is probably something you've dealt with a lot over the years. Mm-hmm. Is just this kind of toxicity in relationships. Do you think it's more than ever, just in general? Have you seen, say, over the scope of the last 10, 20 years? Or do you think it's always been maybe this bad here and there? not that all relationships are bad, but you know what I mean.
Not that all relationships are bad.
You see it more, maybe just because we're talking. Can we talk better now than we used to 60 years ago? I mean, that's kind of an obvious question, but
I think we're talking more. I'm not sure we're talking better.
right.
In a lot
That's
of
a
ways.
good point.
You know, and I think we can learn to think first and talk much better than we have, and the evidence is pretty clear about that. I mean, I don't think human nature hasn't changed. You know, and we are incredibly good at self-justification. You know, in fact, that's pretty much our prime motive. Number one is to justify ourselves rather than look at ourselves and say, what could I have done? What should I do differently? Our go-to modus operandi. Sorry, Jody, busted out the Latin, but
I think he knows that one.
He knows that one. Mo.
Mo.
Is to justify ourselves. That is the first place we go. Because and you think about. There's a thing called cognitive dissonance. It's folks are probably familiar with. It's one of my favorite psychological theories of all time because it explains so much of human behavior. Because, essentially, it's what would commonly be called rationalization. We can find justification for almost anything we do to another human being and believe it.
Yeah.
And come to believe it over time. We'll fill in the blanks with all kinds of nonsense, what looks like to an external observer to be nonsense, in order to justify ourselves as a good and deserving and kind and loving person, even though everybody in the room knows you're an asshole.
Right.
In that circumstance. And so anyway, I think we need to learn to talk better, think better and talk better.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do that. But it takes something that I like to talk a lot about, which is emotional intelligence. And we have, I think, in many ways fallen off the cliff with regard to emotional intelligence, self-awareness. We have everything in our culture in many ways is designed to distract us from being centered, from being present with ourselves first and foremost before anything else. And we have 24/7 nonstop bright lights, flashing, social media, everything you can imagine to distract us from the hard work of being present with ourselves. Self-awareness is the cornerstone of everything else regarding emotional intelligence. If you don't have that, you can't have real empathy, I don't believe, without first having real self-awareness. How can you?
Right.
And it's the shop-worn phrase, but the whole idea of, the mask for yourself before your kids. But it's true. Until you can know and care for yourself, probably going to be pretty shitty at taking care of anybody else and knowing anybody else. I saw on your bathroom, something along the lines of, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is to know, to love and be loved in return. And even underlying that is, to know yourself. Take the risk of knowing yourself, loving yourself before you can love someone else. So
Yeah.
I have
agree.
some serious questions about Amber Heard's and Johnny Depp's ability to love themselves.
Yes.
Right.
But that's a whole other
That's a whole other podcast.
whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. But I agree with that. Do you think that there is now in your profession, and I don't mean the music, I mean the other side.
Yeah, that thing.
Do you think that there is now an ailment or a disorder for everything? Are they coming up with ailments and disorders, specifically disorders, just to cover what's going on instead
Sweet
of
Jesus.
changing that behavior?
Yeah, and I have a real problem with it, honestly. I really do. I'm not supposed to probably say this because it's like, the Bible of the psychiatric profession, of course, the DSM-5 currently. And they're working on it, and they're making all kinds of, for your viewing and listening pleasure, all kinds of new disorders that you can, thumb through the book and find yourself in. But yeah, and again, I often say Freud wasn't right about everything, but he got a few things really right. He has that book on psychopathologizing everyday life. And I think we continue to do that. That's exactly what we're doing. We're psychopathologizing everyday life, calling it a disorder when it's really just, living. It's just human beings responding to adversity. It's human beings responding to losing someone that they love with all of their heart, soul, mind, and strength. tell me, and they're talking about doing a grief disorder, complicated grief disorder, and really putting a finer point on that. I'm like, you know what? Don't do that.
Right.
Don't make grief, which is, I mean, again, shop-worn phrase, but grief is just love with no place to go, right? It's looking for a place to go. And don't make that into something that's pathological, because it's not. It's the evidence of the love in your heart and soul. You know, grief, please have grief. When you lose something you love or someone you love, please have grief. That tells me that your humanity is intact, that your work and things are working. You know, don't make it a disorder that we need to medicate you for.
Right. Yes.
Or I will not be happy. I was going to say I'll punch you in the face, but that's not.
That's a disorder.
professional.
That's
That's
not
a disorder.
perfect.
That's an intermittent explosive disorder. I'll bust it out on you.
There we go.
I hate that too. Little kids with intermittent explosive disorder.
It's like, what?
Did y'all know kids with intermittent explosive disorder
absolutely.
when you were a kid? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh my
They're all
gosh.
heavily medicated, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just, and it also
break.
seems to give people an excuse. Like, hey, it's not my fault. I've got this disorder. And on the other hand, it's like, okay, but I don't know how psychologists or doctors or anybody handles this, but okay, if you even put the label on it, then how do we help you not do this anymore?
Right.
And not a pill,
Right.
not some drug that just makes you sleepy. Like, it seems like it gives an excuse just to keep behaving that way instead of changing.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, I'm a social psychologist at heart. Social psychology has taught me everything pretty much. And that is, you know, this whole idea of cognitive dissonance in a way. It's human beings are, as my good friend and my favorite psychologist in this town, Dr. Joe Hulgas says, we are story-making critters. We are, by definition, by nature, story-making critters. We make up stories about everything. We try to make everything make sense. We try to pull, disparate elements of what are oftentimes just random events and make it make sense. And sometimes it just really doesn't.
Yes.
You know, I mean, but we will impose order on it. You know, we will make sure that it does. But anyway, the point I was getting to is the idea of having an external, what we would call in social psychology, we call it an attribution. If something happens and we attribute it to some external cause, which a label like a psychiatric disorder is, even though we own it, it's still an external thing. It's still something outside of me. Oh, that's my label. That's my disorder.
Yeah.
So it's because of that.
Right.
And so I am absolved of responsibility to both understand and oftentimes to change it. And I mean, it's the most natural human response there is to look. Again, I mentioned before, the go-to is self-justification. We're always looking to justify our behavior. You know,
Yes.
we're kind of behaviorists in the sense that we look at our own behavior and then we try to figure out why we did that, and we make attributions for that. Why did we do that? Well, is it because I'm a butthole, or is it because of some other factor? Because I had a migraine and I said things that I really shouldn't have said to Josie this morning. I mean, not that I'm personalizing it, but I mean, we're always looking to justify. So the point being, yes, I think when we pathologize everything in life, we give it labels with little decimal point, precision in the
Yes.
DSM manual. We have now an ability to externalize it and say, I'm doing this, I'm treating you this way because of that. And so get used to it.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause
Right.
that ain't going to change. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
Okay.
unfortunate.
Yes.
That really is. And that is a problem, I think, in the whole profession, writ large, honestly.
Yeah.
I've thought that, and I'm obviously not a professional, but I've thought that for years. That it especially with children's disorders, I know that ADHD exists, but I feel like it's overdiagnosed.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I'm obviously not a professional, but I feel like some kids are just maybe acting out to get attention. Maybe they're just trying to do better and they're not getting the approval. I don't know what it
And
is.
you know what?
And let's just give them a pill.
You know what? Kids know that.
Yes.
I've been doing focus groups around the state for the last couple months with youth, some in mental health services, some not, and really talking about, because we've got the Surgeon General and others declaring a state of emergency for youth and children's mental health. So I've been like putting that in front of them and saying, does this line up with your reality, guys? Here's what you're hearing from the research on these mostly old white guys that are saying this stuff about you. Is this true for you? Is this your experience? And anyway, the point being, one of the things I'm hearing from them is that there is a sense in which the kids that I'm hearing from anyway, are saying that very thing, that the labels have gotten out of hand, and we now have people jockeying for position. That we have kids that are using these things for purposes of look at me, which is unfortunate again.
Very.
And I'm not saying that the children's mental health crisis is not real, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of complexity to how the kids see this stuff, and especially in terms of labels. And we have labels because we need them so that insurance companies will pay for the bills. But other than that, in terms of the research, so-called, sorry, Jody, nosology, which is the study of diagnosis. I mean, that's it's a real inexact science, and there's so much variability in it that I can't even begin to tell you. But again, the point being, there are kids that are hurting, kids that are experiencing all kinds of suffering as a result of the stuff that's happened in the last couple of years, and as a result of being developmentally in one of the hardest times in life. And we ought to be doing everything we can to normalize their experience, not abnormalize it, in my humble opinion. And it is just an opinion.
I completely agree with that, because if you put a label on it like, oh, this is your thing that's happening, instead of going, yeah, this happens to 13-year-olds.
Yeah.
It just makes them feel even worse, I think. Giving them that label, it's I don't know, and just here's a pill, go sit down, go do your homework. Yeah. And try to deal with this on your own with this pill in your system, and instead of just letting them know, hey, yeah, 13 sucks. Being 13 sucks.
It does.
Hey girls, hey boys, everybody, whatever,
So hard. Can you imagine? And I know we always have this. Every generation blames the one before, and all of their frustration comes beating on the door. It's one of my favorites. But generational differences being what they are. I mean, can you imagine being a 13-year-old now? I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she has
13.
She has it way easier in so many ways, and like
way
$1,000,000% harder.
Yep.
In ways that I can only begin to imagine. For example, worrying about having to go to school and be murdered at your desk by a person who is so among many other things. I mean, they have a heavy burden, and man, it's our job to just love them 100% through that, and listen to them, learn how to listen to them.
That's key.
Wow.
Sure.
It's old fashioned. But it works.
It's old-fashioned.
Well, it's old-fashioned, this whole listening to people.
If you bring back humanity, we're old-fashioned.
Yeah.
We're just animals.
Yep.
We need to listen to each other.
The same basic nature.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, we're kind of already getting into some of it, but it seems like what you've probably learned in your field since you started is like to today is like the difference between horse riding and flying to Mars in a rocket ship. It's only been the last 30 or 40. I mean, there's things you're learning now that wasn't even teachable 30, 40 years ago when you started. Right?
100% true. 100%
I mean,
true.
it's the evolving. So is it actually really evolving, or do you find yourself applying some of the exact principles that maybe happened 100 years ago? They're still just as relevant now. We're just trying to apply it to this crazy new social media world we live in. I mean, do you know what I mean? Some of the basic foundational psychology, what you brought up Freud earlier, and things like that. Do a lot of those things just actually still totally apply? You just got to sort of amend them, I guess, a little bit.
Man, that's a great point and a great question that I spend a lot of time thinking about, actually, because I think, all this stuff I learned at SBU.
Yeah. I know when you started.
We can reiterate that story later.
From my wonderful professors, and then the stuff that I was spewing out from the lectern and being abused for. I mean, some of that stuff I think has held up, and some of it is like, in many ways, sort of culture and historic zeitgeist, spirit of the times, bound. I mean, like it was a product of its time. But I think that's kind of what we're doing in many ways, is sifting through all that and deciding what still obtains, what still pertains to, to life today. And a lot of it really still does. I mean, some of it, like Erik Erikson's theory of developmental psychology, like different stages that we go through in terms, I think a lot of that's still 100% relevant. I mean, as I am now in my 50 something, I mean, like getting toward the that era of what he would call generativity, and then thinking about life review later on. I mean, I think that stuff, people still are doing those things. Babies are still trying to figure out whether they can trust or mistrust the world. I mean, and all the more reason why we should be building safe spaces for our children, etc. But yeah, I think some of that stuff, just that one as an example, that really is in some ways, I don't want to say timeless because it will change historically, but that stuff is not going to change anytime soon. Some of that's built on basic, human psychology and physiology. I mean, the thing where we first had our interaction was, and that was psychophysiology. That was about the general adaptation syndrome, which is Hans Selye's word for what happens when we're faced with a threat. We have this thing that happens in our sympathetic nervous system, and then our parasympathetic nervous system comes and tries to calm it down or whatever. But for example, stress, that's still 100% relevant because kids are being threatened. Both directly, physically, and psychologically, and obliquely. Sorry, Jody. From an angle, from all kinds of different angles, with things that really are problematic. That things are threatening to them in many ways for their basic safety and survival. So all that stuff I think is still very, very relevant. But I think, and psychology is a science. There are haters and doubters, but we really do try to pay attention to the scientific method. And if it doesn't hold up over time, then we discard it. We used to think that, but and by the way, that's the self-correcting mechanism called science, and I believe in that very, very strongly. Even though there have a lot of people out there these days who seem to think they have a better way.
Right.
But
you can equate that to medical too.
100%.
I mean, medical technology has changed over the years, so why not psychology?
Yeah, it should.
It's the study. It's not the finished.
Right.
It's still you're still studying it. So.
Are we glad that medicine has evolved from like drilling holes in your skull and relieving the pressure and letting spirits out
with one of those
with the hand drill? You're gonna feel better any second now. This is called trephining. You can do it with a Makita now. You can do it a lot faster. But I mean, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that we've evolved beyond that idea, and it's self-corrective in that sense. So the more we learn, the more you know.
Yep.
The better you do.
One of our avid listeners of the audio and this week is Julia, and she says, "Is anyone feeling stressed? Does anyone need to flex their buttocks?"
She gonna bring that up.
She know the story.
She knows the story. That's impressive.
That story's growing.
And I just want to know, I want you to know my buttocks are flexed right
now.
Right now. Yeah,
Well,
baby.
then release. And release.
Come on over here, baby. Flex your buttocks. Down me. It's good. It's good to you.
We just relived that story at dinner tonight.
Oh gosh.
Dan, do we want to go there?
I think so. I think there might be some people who haven't seen or heard it.
You didn't see episode 8?
Episode 8.
So
it was
Dan tells the story better.
Or hear it.
So I'm gonna I want Dan to tell it.
You want Dan
I'm
to
tired
tell
of
it.
talking to anyone. I'm gonna drink some bourbon.
This is a story of how Dan and Paul met.
That sounds like the beginning of a rap song.
I think other than Gene Whedon, I might know Paul longer than anybody else in town.
Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, besides his family, obviously.
Yeah, baby.
I've known him a long time.
It's a long time.
So Dan, Paul, how did you guys meet?
So let me preface this, and I'm gonna turn Dan loose. But let me preface this by saying that I finished my PhD when I was 25. I was a kid. I was a baby. I was wet behind the ears. I was green as the grass, and I was like just hell-bent to get that thing done. And I did, and I got a call from one of my favorite people in the whole wide world in the history of ever, and he and Donna, Joe Shelton and Donna Shelton, just celebrated their anniversary. Happy anniversary, guys. I know they won't be listening to this, but anyway, he was the chair of the Department of Psychology. He calls me up and says, hey, we'd like you to come back and teach in the psych department. And I don't know if that is like, to me, was like, this was like Methuselah, God on high, something calling me. And I was like, of course I'll come and make $23,000 a year when my friends are making $100 in 1989.
Right.
Of course I'm going to come back.
Because
So
you're
anyway,
going to do it for the Lord.
I'm doing it for the Lord. And I signed a thing that said I would not drink, smoke, chew, or go out with girls who do. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's the preface. I was a young green psychology professor at SBU. God bless them. And I was asked to do in Joe Shelton's classroom, Davis Theater. I was asked to do a talk on stress management.
Stress management.
And by God,
circa
I was
1989.
managing some stress.
Circa 1989.
And guess who else happened to be there?
So, Dan,
Take it away.
take it away.
Regardless of our story, it still was a wonderful experience for him because his whole thing was on stress.
It was.
So he was already stressed just because of everything he just said. I mean, it was
Yes.
He came
Can you
back?
imagine being
Yes.
basically a kid talking to this whole Davis Theater, a whole like a couple hundred people,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah.
You know, like a whole thing, and your first like major lecture at your job, you know, and so I was stressed.
Like you were stressed.
So thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Thanks for understanding my realities and being so concerned.
So those who don't know what the hell we're talking about, and most of you, I don't say most. Some of you do.
Just say Dan was in that class.
Dan was in that class.
So when he says he was working at SBU, I went to school at SBU in 1989. This could have been 1990. I can't remember, but it was somewhere around there.
You're college freshman-ish.
So I was in Joe Shelton's class. He was a fantastic psychology teacher. Everybody at the school loved this dude. He was fun, but it was also a good class. He's the one that announced to us that we're going to have a guest speaker. This just, all right, cool. So we're hanging out, and this guy,
This guy.
Then you know use guys. Guys.
That's where that came from, isn't it? I still use that from episode 8. This guy.
Fucking guy.
Fucking
This
guy.
This guy comes out on stage, and he's going to be the guest speaker. Well, in my defense, the entire class, for some reason, decided to just turncoat on this dude.
It was like freshman in high school substitute teacher.
I mean, it was
Maybe
just
because I was not that much older than them.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, I did not command authority like Joe Shelton did. Like, who's this fucking kid? Yeah, right. He's wearing a Chess King jacket. Like, I have the same jacket he's wearing.
Yes. So there was just a lot of it. I mean, it was so obvious and even so uncomfortable to us that we were being this way. I mean, at least for me, I just felt like, why are we all being addicted to this guy? Like,
no, there's no reason.
in the beginning,
He
this is
seems
what
nice.
I'm. Yeah.
He seems like a nice kid.
And he's just talking, and it just. I tell stories the way they felt. Maybe this isn't exactly how it happened, but it just felt like we all, went our separate ways and started having full conversations with each other while he's on stage.
Total talking?
Kind of, yeah. There was just a
you
lot
assholes.
of whispering and a lot of boo-boo-boo and giggling and stuff.
By the way, just excellent preparation for being a musician later in life, where nobody pays any fucking attention
There
to
you
it
go.
whatsoever.
There
while
you
you're
go.
playing your heart out. So it works.
Perfect.
Continue, please.
Yes. So he does start this lecture, and it is all about stress. And he's kind of going through all of the, the boring science of it. What he does. That's what he does. You know what I mean? So anyway,
The boring science. That's what he does. Jerk.
that's a joke. That's a joke. Step off my dick. Anyway, so he's kind of going through the real definitions, all these things. Later in the lecture, he starts to talk about how you can physically deal with
The
it.
physiology.
And there was several different examples of this and that and all these things. One of them was to actually flex your muscles and then kind of release them, and then flex them and then release them. And he went through kind of head to toe. So we all saw it coming. I mean, you can flex your biceps, and you can do your triceps and your stomach muscles. And we're like, oh, here he goes.
Go.
You know where we're going.
go.
We're going south.
Go.
Everything's going south.
Flex your
Everything.
buttocks. And,
The largest muscles in your body.
you know, knowing the
Should
scenario.
have said glutes.
Yeah.
That was my mistake. In retrospect, glutes.
It's not as funny.
It would. It's not. It's not as. It's not as triggering for a 19-year-old to say gluteus maximus. To say buttocks, but because it has butt in it,
Right.
Of
which is still
course.
funny
Always funny.
now.
And he
It's
had already
totally-
signed the contract and said he's not allowed to say ass.
No, I can say that. It's in the Bible.
Oh, that's right.
Ass and hell and damn.
Those are
They're all in the
allowed.
Bible, so it's good.
Okay.
He says, flex your buttocks. And of course, now everyone pays attention for 2 seconds.
Silence.
And we're just like, not yet. Not yet. And we all just laughed at him like, ah. So then he continues on. And he's talking more about stuff like this. We get past that moment. And then the chattering just starts getting worse and worse. The paying attention to him just starts getting less and less. Everyone's visiting with their neighbors. He's trying to wrap up his lecture. And it is like out of control how much we're not paying attention to him. And he actually snaps. He absolutely snaps. After he just gave a 40-minute lecture on stress, he broke down, stressed out, and he was like, this is the best part of the whole thing.
I don't know.
He's like, oh my gosh, none of you guys are listening to me. He actually said, you're really stressing me out. So when he raised his voice, everyone went quiet, and I tried to whisper to my friend next to me, flex your buttocks. Like this, you know, I did a callback. It was comedic genius. It was like, I did a callback. I was like, flex your buttocks right when
At
it went
19.
At 19.
quiet. And he heard me. I was only at about the 10th row. And he goes, what did you say? And I was like, I said, flex your buttocks. Of course, being a smart ass. But at the same time, I was listening to the lecture.
That's right.
Like, I'm taking your
You got
advice.
through to him, Paul. You got through to him.
You know, I,
And then
I
he's
should
just-
have known that.
He just Ted stares at me for a split second and goes, flex your own buttocks. Then it was nothing but train wreckery from there
Yep.
until the end. Joe Shelton got pissed at us. He got up and basically kind of gave us all the what for. And the rest of the following 10 minutes was just not good.
Bedlam.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
bedlam. So anyway,
Dogs and cats sleeping together. Mass hysteria.
Horses without dogs.
so I never
Dogs
see
without horses.
this guy again.
Right.
And so I go about my way. I
guy.
ended up
This guy.
Fucking guy.
You fucking
In
guy.
a chesking fucking jacket.
So I never see him again
Until
until 30. Well, let's say 30 years.
fast forward to what, 2014?
Let's say 1990. So 14.
I can't do math.
24 years.
Where's Joe Dillstrom?
Long
Yeah,
ass
something
time.
like 24, 25 years later.
Yeah.
You get invited to sing
Sing the part of
Sing
Mary.
the part of Mary at this church that used to do the Jesus Christ Superstar for Easter, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was a neat. They sort of
Loved
played parts of the movie, and then they actually performed live
Yeah.
some of the songs. And I actually went to one of the rehearsals with you. Mm-hmm. And there's this guy.
There's this guy. Old cocky
didn't-
Jesus himself.
Cocky Jesus
Cocky
wearing
Jesus.
a different jacket. though.
Yeah.
I did not have that jacket.
I didn't recognize him at all. I forgot all about that guy that gave that stress lecture. I told the story 100 times, but I never saw him again. I didn't even know his name.
Yeah.
So we go to this church to start rehearsing for this thing, and there's this guy on stage, and I'm just like, I wonder who is that dude? Like, I'd never heard of him. I didn't know who.
I came over. I was like, "It's Paul Thomlinson."
Paul Thomlinson.
I
I was
think
like-
he's like a psychologist or something. And
I don't know. He's striking me kind of weird. Like, I have like not a good feeling in my soul.
Agita.
I got me some Majida.
When I look at him, I feel like I recognize him, but it doesn't feel positive. Something
Yeah.
feels
You're
negative.
right. There's some unfinished business over here.
I don't bear witness with him.
That was good, man. That was really a good. Talk about a callback.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
And I still don't make the connection. You'd get invited another year later, and there's that guy again, and I'm getting that same feeling. And I never saw him.
Jesus
perform
always comes back for Easter.
He
Yes.
keeps coming back for Easter.
Yeah, he was there.
So you told me his name. I get on Facebook. I was like, there's something about this dude. And
He researched this.
oh yeah, I totally.
Some would say stalked.
Yeah, I stalked him
Some
a
would
bit.
say.
Some would say.
I go over to his page and I see that he went to SBU, and I see that he's a psychology major, and I'm like,
It's that guy.
It's
I know
it's
that
like,
guy.
It's that
like
guy.
the scene from The Usual Suspects where Kobayashi, all this stuff starts like falling into place. Like, it's that guy. Fucking Kaiser Soze. It's limping out of the room.
Whatever that music is for rewinding. And I was
Kaiser
sitting,
Soze of psychology.
and I found myself at 2 a.m. drunk and scoping Paul Thomlinson's page, and now I'm sitting.
But I mean, who hasn't?
I'm sitting.
True.
Really?
Yeah.
That is true.
That's not true.
I find myself in Davis Theater in slow motion, like flex your buttocks.
And it made him laugh.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
did. So now I'm like, okay, now this has got to come out,
We
because
have to talk to him.
even if he hates me, he has to know.
He has to know.
So I still don't know him as a friend. I hadn't seen him. I walk into Cody South one time. It's currently Georgia Max, and this guy is
Different jacket.
this guy is
In
at
a
the
different
bar.
jacket.
And I think that night you were either waiting on someone or just there by yourself. It seems like he was alone from what I remember. And I just literally walked up and like on his shoulder. I was like, hey, I know you don't really know me. Like I saw the Jesus Christ Superstar stuff, whatever. I was like, did you used to teach psychology or something like that at SVU? And he's like, well, yeah. Kind of this, and that. And I was like, do you remember a guy like disrupting one of your classes and telling you to flex your buttocks? And all of a sudden, that's when we connected. Like, this invisible thing. Like, I do remember that.
And I would like credit for not strangling him, choking
Yes.
him out
Yes.
at Cody South.
That's right.
I didn't choke him out. I didn't physically aggress against him in any way. And
Your Honor.
No.
Your Honor. No, really, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
It's okay. He survived the encounter, is what I'm saying. That was so fantastic, though. Like, it really was. Like, wow. All
Making that
came
connection.
back.
It was so
Because
wild.
we all knew of each other around
Right.
town. We just
100%.
didn't know each other.
Sure.
Yeah, and I was a fan even, and then
Yeah.
to know that I was a fan of a guy that was a complete asshole at 19. No, he was just being a 19, and it
He
was
was being 19.
and he gave us a story that we can still tell 30
That's
something
right.
years later.
And we told it again after how long ago
you
was
know
your
what?
episode?
But one of the things I've really been thinking about a lot lately, and it's probably because of that Ericksonian life review thing. When you look back and you think, you know, a lot of folks that you shared things with are no longer with us. And it's like, you know, you're the keeper of the memory palace. You know, you're the only one who has that now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm just grateful always for friends who, especially, and there's nothing like old friends, you know, and folks you've known for a long, long time that nobody else has that, you know. Well, now other people have it, but that's our thing, you know. I mean, we go back and we have history and we have that thing that to this day still think about regularly, makes me smile, makes me laugh out loud sometimes. And I mean, man, that's part of what life's about.
Yeah.
Is you know, shared memories. I mean, there's no better investment than that. And sometimes you can't engineer them. You'd never like, I'm gonna, you know, make this, you know, I would never have chosen that as a 25-year-old dumbass, new doctorate, whatever. But man, I'm so glad that happened. And you know, that's just like, there's some magic to
There's
that.
magic, yeah.
Here we are,
And here we are
now.
in this very room again.
Yeah,
hanging out and
that's
talking.
very cool. In this very room.
In this very room.
It's so wild how wildly different and far and beyond we both left that Davis Theater.
Yeah.
The miles we traveled in all the directions of the entire world, and then now we're back here in this room together.
Yeah.
It's really nuts.
I love it.
But beautiful.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It really is. I mean, if you can't see the beauty in that, then I feel bad for you.
That's true.
You need, look for those moments in your own life. I mean, if we could draw anything that we could share with other people, look for those moments, man, where you connect with people, reconnect with people, because that's what it's all about. And
That's a conversation I've had with some people before who, accuse me of being a good storyteller. Like, oh, you're such a good storyteller and all these things are. But in addition to that, the point will be brought up like, you've lived such a fun, like you have experienced so many awesome things. Let's put it that way. And I've just been like, have I, or have I just noticed things?
Yes.
I've always been like trying to find a story, and I'll have one tomorrow. I mean, hook up with me tomorrow night, and I'll have something about the day that'll be like, you won't believe it.
Yep.
And it'll be something that'll sound really exciting, but only because I love looking for it.
Absolutely.
Like you're saying, I love to like, where can the story be in this? No matter so it can sometimes be mundane, normal, everyday stuff.
Right.
But if you see it,
and this is why Dan needs to be more revered in life. Because, and honestly, and cultures throughout history, I mean, storytellers are the ones who are most revered because they're the ones who carry our culture. They're the ones that carry our collective memory. They're the ones who, walk us into the future with some sense of connection to the past. It's an incredibly important skill, and you do. I'll accuse you of it. You're
I accuse him
really
too.
freaking good at it.
yeah.
But you know what made me a little bit sad is that the storytellers of our day are the media, and that our media sucks.
And nobody trusts them.
Nobody trusts them,
No.
and
Yeah.
it's who we count on for our stories now, kind of, sort of, in addition to movies and television and whatever.
Yeah.
But the media itself used to be the crier, the town crier, or the literally the storyteller who used to just sit around telling stories. And now it's media, and it's like, ugh.
They're not telling good stories.
They're not. Well,
Yeah.
they are. They think they are. I feel like they think they're telling good stories because they're tragic, or they cause this negative blood pressure instead of the good blood pressure. I know that all stories aren't great, but I just feel like in 2022, those storytellers are dwindling in a way because the media has so much freaking power,
Absolutely.
and they're terrible.
Yeah.
They're
in
bad
general.
storytellers.
Yeah. They're not even articulate. They're not even proper English anymore. I mean, it's just weird. Everything about, generally speaking, the media is just bleh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that art is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a hell of a lot of good songs being written, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's still a lot of storytelling in songs, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I love it. People listen to stories and they don't comment. It's fantastic.
That one's a classic.
That's a classic
That one's
story.
going in my book to
Yeah.
the kids.
Love that story.
Yeah, it's a great story. And
How's your buttocks?
How's your buttocks? That's we need a T-shirt. We said it in episode 8, and we never did make a T-shirt. So
And we need a song. I really
I
think
think,
we need a song.
yeah.
What rhymes with buttocks?
he's already working on it.
Get my rhyme zone out.
Get your rhyme zone.
Buttocks.
I just think it's just a titch extra funny for Paul and I because we actually went to school at SBU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just hanging on the word buttocks, but it's
Yeah.
funnier that he chose that word because that's kind of where we were in our spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I can't-
Flex your ass.
Yeah, he just.
Can you flex your ass for me?
It just flex your
so-
wrist.
we weren't in that place in life where we could just kind of.
Did you ever have a class with Phil Powell?
That sounds familiar.
He was a psych professor. So this blew my mind when he came in. He would come in his adolescent development class in SBU, and he walked in and wrote "fucking" on the board, which would have been enough. I
would have
thought
fainted.
to get you completely get you fired from
Wow.
SBU.
Right.
He's like, I want to talk about this, and he went on to talk about it. And he's like, basically making the point that you guys are still so wrapped up in that you missed everything else I said, because you're so offended by this word that you missed all the other content that I just shared you about the importance of intimacy and It was brilliant,
Yeah.
And so I was teaching a psychology of men class there, Jan term. You remember Jan term? It's like the compressed 4-week class. I used to they'd allow you to do like specialty classes. So I did one on psychology of men, which was interestingly mostly populated with women. And one of the things I always talk about is male sexuality, and I would talk about how there's really on the undisputed king of innuendo is the male organ. And I was like, how many? Let's talk about all the different euphemisms for the penis. At SBU, I did this,
Right.
Wow.
and I'd have them just shout out like all the names that they've ever heard for the dick,
my.
and so I'd write them all down. I'm really glad I didn't get fired, but it really wasn't as serious in some ways. Exercise, making an important point, but yeah, that was like the board was just full of them,
Covered.
including a professor's daughter who shouted out, "Purple-headed yogurt thrower." Oh my God! I was like, I fell. I had cataplexy. Sorry, Jody. I had cataplexy, which means I lost all muscle tone in my legs. I literally
Oh my
fell
gosh.
down laughing from that one, Little Red Soldier, Little Elvis, all those, but anyway, the whole thing. But it's like, just to give you an idea of, I was petrified, rightfully so, that I might lose my job for doing what I thought was actually a really engaging, important exercise to talk about male sexuality
Right.
and how it gets boiled down to, shall we say, a pinpoint. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. I don't know if we've made clear that SBU stands for Southwest Baptist, University.
Yes.
Yes.
If those
Yes.
watching don't know, or
That's why we were always very worried.
if someone
Yes.
from around here stumbles upon someone from not around here stumbles on this video, is like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is an SBU?
Southwest Baptist.
Baptist
Lots of great
University.
experiences, great times, wonderful people,
Yeah.
and kind of the house that built me in a lot of ways.
I was going to say
Yeah.
a cool foundation.
Cool
Yeah.
foundation, yeah.
Yeah.
From
We
which
have
to
our
grow.
Screamer Dreamer medication information. This mysterious person writes in with information. Rhyme Zone notes only one word that rhymes with buttocks. It's futtocks, plural noun, each of the curved timber pieces forming the lower part of a ship's frame.
A
They're
futtocks.
a futtocks.
Futtocks. I did not. It's like one more than orange. Nothing rhymes with orange, but futtocks.
Futtocks.
Buttocks and futtocks.
I'm sure
But
you'll
we
make
have
it
to
work.
we have to do something like butt his or something like buttits.
Yeah.
It's your
Buttits.
buttocks,
Buttocks and buttocks.
Buttocks.
Yeah.
but it's the biggest muscle in your body.
That's right.
I mean, we'll figure something out.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. I freaking love it.
Futtocks.
Futtocks.
Thank you so. Who did that?
Yeah.
Screamer Dreamer
It's-
medication
yeah.
information.
That
Which
was
we think is
fantastic.
Julia J. Cobb.
We'll put her picture back up there. Yeah.
She is the best thing in the world.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right there.
And Rhyme Zone is fantastic.
Rhyme Zone.
I use it for writing a lot, actually. So futtocks.
Futtocks.
Who knew?
We
I wonder if
didn't-
it should be like slower and more lovely, like instead of funky,
Yeah, maybe.
like a
flex your butt.
Oh, like
Little
a
R&B.
who's that guy?
We're gonna get into buttocks.
Who's that guy?
some kind of almost love song.
Marvin Gaye-ish or
Marvin Gaye.
something.
I've been really trying, baby, to flex my buttocks. Show me your buttocks. You know what I mean?
Sail over here in your futtocks
Come on over here, baby.
Sail over here in your futtocks.
with your
With
futtocks.
your,
Don't know when, I don't know why.
let me get these last futtocks.
Oh, God.
I can't write songs. I can't.
But what about gluteus? What if I had said gluteus? Or
Right.
glutes. A lot more stuff rhymes with glutes.
Glutes.
Glutes, true.
Flex your glutes. We'd have to revise history a little bit, but take a little artistic liberty.
It's wild that the entire fucking story might not exist if he would have said flex your glutes.
Right.
The whole.
It's quite possible.
So kids at home,
whole
the important lesson
story.
here is choose your words carefully.
Yeah.
Right. Words matter.
Yeah. I might have had professors in my life that I'm great friends with now, but I didn't know it because
Right.
there's no story that makes it
Because there's
stand
no
out.
story.
True
Yeah.
that.
If he would have said flex your glutes, we probably would have just kind of like, oh, yeah,
Okay,
flex your glutes, okay. But the buttocks is
Buttocks.
what really
Harsh.
made the day.
It made the 19-year-olds giggle
You did. Make all the 19-year-olds giggle.
at the Baptist U.
at the Baptist University.
Yeah.
That's where our level of
So
comedy
we
was.
don't have to rhyme buttocks though. We could rhyme flex. I mean, a lot of things. I'm just
Right.
saying
Yeah.
we got work
Yeah,
to do.
buttocks doesn't have to be the one that's
Right.
rhymed, but
I mean-
buttocks needs to be in the song.
It does.
yeah.
100%.
But it doesn't have
Yeah,
to be.
it's got to be that phrase.
100.
No matter how. you say it.
100. 100, my friend. So May is Mental Health Month, Awareness
is.
Month, right?
Yep.
So talk about that. You've got some podcasting
Lots
going
going
on.
on.
Yeah.
This is a
So-
big thing for you.
It is. I'm maybe the only thing I'm more passionate about than music but that's saying a lot. But is mental health, is making sure that folks know that there's a better way. If they're suffering, that you can change the way you think, you can change the way you feel. And Mental Health Month, May, which is also my birthday month, always has lots of good associations with me, graduation and all that
Yeah,
stuff. It's a good month for proms. But Mental Health Month, since 1949, it's been a focus on mental health and mental health awareness. So it's like, what do we need to be aware of? Well, there's a bunch of stuff, obviously. I mean, we need to be able to have conversations like we've been having. This is great. You guys, in many ways, I think what you did, where you started this whole thing, is like exactly what we need to be doing more of. Just normalizing, I know, to use a shop-worn phrase again, normalizing struggle, normalizing the conversation about struggle. Because I've grown to hate the word stigma, because the stigma, the mental health stigma and all that. But you know what, that word literally means a mark. Back in the Greek times, they put a mark on someone for this or that or the other thing, to mark them as different, as other. And so we talk about stigmatizing mental health. I'm like, no, let's call it what it is, which is discrimination.
Ooh,
it's discrimination against people who have struggles or conditions that make life hard for them. And so stop it. You don't say, well, the reason we don't have, if people were dropping like flies from cardiac disease, which they are, but they have all these wonderful marble tiled cardiac units and all that. We don't board people with cardiac conditions in ERs for 6 days like we do people with mental health conditions. We don't have, by the way, at work, cakes and return to work parties for people who get out of the mental health hospitalization like we do when they get done with chemotherapy, for cancer or whatever. And it's like, that's really the big message, is like, awareness means mental health problems are health problems. And let's look at it that way. And this whole thing, the shooting stuff, I mean, do get me started. But
Right.
One of the things that I'm always terrified of when these things happen, these awful things happen, is that it always gets turned in some ways to, it's about mental health. It's crazy people. No. That's not what it's about. Almost always it's about alienated, disconnected, disaffected white men. And almost always. Who have access to guns. It's not about that they had schizophrenia. It's not that they had depression. It's not that they had any of the stuff that we've talked about in the DSM. So I don't want people to conflate this idea of mental health and mass shootings. People who have mental illnesses are more likely to be victims of violence than they are to be perpetrators of it. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
That's interesting. Say that again.
Yeah, people who have mental health challenges or mental illness are statistically way more likely to be victims of violent crime than they are to be perpetrators of it. It's not there, and the population-based studies are very clear. People with mental illness are no more likely to be aggressive or violent than the general population. So put that stuff out of your mind. It's nonsense, and it shouldn't be used as a political football to demonize people with mental health challenges and problems. And I resent it deeply, and because I know these people, we work with these people. They are not the people that are being painted with this broad brush of violence and killing children. That's not what this is about. So anyway, I've gotten a little off the page, but the Mental Health Awareness Month is about making sure that folks are aware that mental health is the cornerstone of all health, and then, I think about it this way. We all have like days when, like, I woke up with a headache this morning. I mean, I ain't gonna lie about it. It was bad. It was like, but you know what? It's like, I probably don't have a brain tumor, but if I do, that's a whole different matter. But we all have days when we have a headache, or we're more tired than we usually, or sore. Like, why am I sore? But it usually goes away, and we don't think But when you sort of descend into sickness and you're like, okay, I can't go to school today, I can't go to work today, I can't properly take care of my wife or do whatever today, then you're sick. And there's a good analogy with mental health. Like, we all have days when we're like downhearted, down in the mouth, whatever. But when it starts to affect your ability to, get life done, that's when maybe you need some help, some professional help, just like you need the antibiotic or the CAT scan and the surgery from the neurologist if you have a brain tumor or whatever it might be. It's part of health, and we need to make it part of health and make sure that we keep talking about it that way. I mean, I hate it when people stigmatize, again, that word, mental health as being some kind of special thing off to itself. It's not. It's part of health, and it's the cornerstone of health. It's really hard to be healthy, generally speaking, physically, if you're not healthy mentally. So Mental Health Month is a lot of things for me, but it's a chance to beat that drum. And my specific theme this May is about hope, because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of folks that were, as I say, their hope tank is it getting lower. It's on E.
Yeah.
And, it's as a oncologist, I read a great book by an oncologist named Jerome Groopman recently, and he talks about it. He's like, I don't think it's too strong to say basically that hope is like oxygen. It's like air. It's like what we need to live, to survive. And I really believe that's true. And there's a whole lot of stuff. I have a podcast on this at compasshealthnetwork.org that you can listen to anytime you want. But I have a few, it's only 20 minutes long or so, 18 minutes long. But I talk about all this, philosophically, psychologically, and then I conclude it with a few thoughts on, what we can do if we're running low on hope and we need to find some strategies to make it better. But the primary one is, and I have my Val Kilmer, I'm Your Huckleberry painting. Okay.
Grab it up. We got show and tell.
We got show and tell. He brought lots of stuff for show and tell.
Sons of bitches.
One of my favorite
We'll put it on your
From
camera.
my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies, which is Tombstone. I'm Your Huckleberry. But he says, and I use this in my podcast. He says on his deathbed, Doc Holliday says to Wyatt Earp, "You're the only human being in my entire life that gave me hope." And when I think about that, I'm like, that's pretty profound. And thankfully, I have more than one person who's given me hope in my life. A lot more, thank God. But you might be the absolute one person that for someone, that fills up their hope tank, that gives them the light and the energy to take the next step into the next minute, the next hour, the next day. And so be the huckleberry that folks need. So to me, the biggest source of hope, one of the biggest sources of hopes. And by the way, I put on your, you invited me to write on your bathroom wall.
Yeah.
And I wrote on there, the shortest distance between two people is music. And that's one of my favorite things to yak about these days. And I think it's true. But the important thing is that distance. We're so distant from other people in many ways. We're disconnected from other people, and we need it like we need air, like we need oxygen, like we need food, like we need water to be connected to other people, at least one other person, and hopefully other folks who nourish your soul, nourish your heart and your mind. And so to me, there's hardly anything more important or more valuable than that. Connecting with folks. Yeah. That's medicine. That's real live medicine.
Yes.
I have a quick thought on that. But before, bring that picture back up. Also explain why this particular picture is actually kind of like
Special.
Yeah, so this is pretty special.
Awesome.
I'm a big Val Kilmer fan. And Val Kilmer, I don't know if you've seen, I think it's called I'm Val. It's it's
that latest
Prime.
kind of documentary.
Yeah, it's
thing
kind
about
of
him.
fantastic if you're a fan, or if you're not. But he's also an artist, and so I own a couple of his pieces. He has a studio and a gallery where you can buy some stuff. So I have he's done these really cool metal plate paintings. Doc Holliday was my first. I have the Batman, which a lot of people don't like his Batman, but screw you.
Right.
And I want to see if I can find the money to buy Jim Morrison and the Iceman, currently relevant. With, Kazansky from
So that's
Top
a Val.
Gun.
That's a Val Kilmer original.
Yes,
right there.
this is actually painted by Val Kilmer.
He touched that with his own hands.
He painted it with his own hands. hands
That's
off. I'm your
fantastic.
Huckleberry.
I love
That's
that movie.
just my game.
It's very cool.
That movie's
Johnny
so
Ringo.
incredible.
Yeah.
Someone
So-
just walked over your grave.
Johnny Ringo.
Speaking of the human connection,
Yeah.
I know COVID destroyed that for a couple of years for some people.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't need to even go into that. But what do you think about like someone who's desperate to find their person or their person filled with hope that is so desperate that they make the poor choice of someone who ends up not being good for them?
Yeah.
How do you have ways of teaching people to recognize these signs for themselves, or is it
Yeah.
all about knowing yourself first?
Oh yeah, I was hoping you would get there before I did. But yeah, that's where it all goes back to is
thyself.
self-aware. Know thyself, the oracle at Delphi. I mean, and that's the best wisdom of all. Know thyself, but also, as it says on your bathroom, love yourself. You know,
Yes.
to love and give and receive love. But it really is about that to me. It's knowing yourself, knowing your value. Because a lot of folks have been convinced by circumstances, by specific people in their lives, by narcissists in many cases,
Yes.
and by the way, I've become very convinced that there's a lot more malignant narcissists in the world than I ever gave them credit
Yes.
for more recently. But
I agree.
and they can destroy folks. They destroy folks' self-esteem, to use an old phrase, their self-worth, their sense of value. So I think it really is about knowing your value first. So it's always I think it's always good counsel to look at yourself, evaluate where you are, and know yourself and love yourself first. Because, and by the way, I'd also like to recommend, there's a thing called the Values in Action Survey, the VIA survey, that you can go Google that, VIA survey, and you have to register for it, but it's free. And you can go and take a test that's a scientifically validated test of character strengths. Now, if you look at clinical psychology, for example, since World War II at least, it's all about what's wrong with you.
Right.
And we talked about the DSM. We talked about all the possible ways that you can be bad, that you can be dysfunctional, that you can be pathological. You know, all that. It's like, you know, the conversation many times has been really centered around that whole conversation. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Really, what we need to be talking about is what's right with you. What is it about you that makes you awesome? That constellation of strengths that makes you who you are as a human being. Anyway, there's a tool called the VIA survey, the Values in Action Survey. It'll give you a profile, and I recommend you take it and look at your top 5. I have this on my wall in my office. My top 5 are listed out, and figure out what it is that makes you who you are and what makes you so valuable. Because everybody has it, but many times you've been so beaten up, you've been so beaten down, you believed the bullshit of a narcissist
Yes.
or someone who has a vested interest in keeping you under their thumb or keeping you down, that you believed it. And that's a tragedy. So this is why I love this tool. It's a way, a scientifically validated way, you know, from a guy that I have great respect for, Dr. Marty Seligman, who is just a brilliant positive psychologist. But it'll give you that profile, and I recommend it. Again, looking at top 5, the things that make you amazing, and then do those things. Whatever those, it's like I often say, and it's why I'm so grateful to be where I am professionally, because I get to, one of the keys to happiness is doing what you are. You being able to do every day what it is that expresses your innermost essence. And so this is a way of finding out what that is, not from an MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, which is a measure of pathology. This is a measure of what's right with you, what makes you great. By the way, my number 1, would you like to know?
I would love to know.
Yes.
My number 1 is appreciation of beauty and excellence.
Wow.
That's my number 1 character strength, according to the
But I
VIA
can see
survey.
that.
Well,
Now
and-
that you said it, I can totally see that.
well, I hope so. Thank you for saying
Yes.
that, because I feel like if I'm not doing that, I'm not going to be happy.
I'll butt in for a second because I see you commenting, and I know Facebook isn't the whole world, but I see you commenting on Facebook on random people that I don't even know, but everything you post is so positive, and you point out something. I'm getting teary-eyed. You point out something beautiful about that person, whoever's saying whatever. Hey, here's my kid's kindergarten graduation, and you write a paragraph. You don't just say, "Oh, awesome, thumbs up." But I've seen you post with Mama Gail. I mean, you inspire her more than anybody I know.
Aw.
And
yeah.
you are doing that. So you are absolutely seeing the beautiful in everyone.
Thank you for saying
I
She
that.
love
loves
that.
him more than she loves me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, why wouldn't she?
Of course. You weren't
Kidding.
disruptive as
I
a
love her
19-year-old.
so much. I love Mama Gail so much. But thank you for saying that. That's making me a little verklempt.
I love it.
But it is, and it gets to a serious point. Appreciation of beauty and excellence is my number one top character strength, and what that means is that's part of my highest self. And if I'm not exercising that, if I'm not doing something to express that every single day, how can I ever be anything but depressed, anything but hopeless?
Yeah.
So the big message is find that and do that. Do what you are.
Yes.
Find ways of putting that into action. Love is a verb. Hope is a verb. You know, and we need to love better and we need to hope better, because a lot of folks are not hoping very well.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So find ways to express your highest self, and there's a good scientifically validated way of figuring that out with the VIA survey. I couldn't recommend it more highly. Find it, print it out, the top 5, put it on your
I'm gonna
wall,
do that.
and do it.
That's awesome.
Do that.
I was
I'm gonna
going to
do it.
say,
I'm gonna do it.
but as we were coming out of that, kind of to piggyback on Tara's thing, and now to piggyback on your thoughts, I think there are sometimes, you hear something like, oh, know thyself and things like that. I think there's some people with, I don't know whether they have simple minds or not, that just think like, how do I do that? So this is a very practical way that you're talking about. I would add to that this podcast that her and I have done, our motives for doing it has been a moving target. That like at one time it's like, oh, we want to kind of connect the music community. Then we were like, well, that didn't work.
It's a hopeless cause.
Yeah, that's a hopeless cause.
Yeah.
Let's do it a different way. We've, with the pandemic, we started doing live shows. The live shows started kind of growing into something different. And the whole thing has constantly been moving. But one thing that stayed exactly the same, at least specifically for Tara and I personally, is that to sit down and actually invest time with friends and sometimes strangers, but other human beings.
Yeah.
Actually give it an hour or 2 or sometimes 3. There's not we can't do a time limit on, hey, like your bit is done in 5 minutes or whatever. Get to know them. I really believe that it is an additional tool to help somebody to help them through falling into that depression trap, or I don't know if I'm saying my words right, but connecting with other human beings has been something that has completely changed our personal psychology in the last 3 years. Yeah. And it helps you grow and know thyself in a way that's like, sometimes I might get on some subject and somebody's been like, no, that's not how it is. And they correct me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't know that because you know more about this subject than I do. And blah, 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 blah. Well, we're up to like hundreds of episodes of real people, hundreds of episodes of live shows. We do our Monday morning medication where we try to like vent out our week. And not everybody has a podcast. Not everybody has the equipment to do it. They don't have the motivation. They don't want to be in any kind of a limelight. But I would encourage making actual time, not to go have drinks or party or see a band. Literally, it's almost awkward. It was very awkward for us when we started to sit down and just talk to someone we barely know for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Or 3.
But it got easier and easier. Now we look forward to Thursday nights with guests. We could do this without even filming it or posting it or recording
That's
it.
the point you're trying to make. Is
Ultimately, what I'm getting at is it's kind of come full circle. And I don't care if we make money. I don't care if we get popular for it. Yeah. It's been so good for us in our soul to sit and talk to varieties of people from all different walks of life.
100% see that in both of you. Yeah. Absolutely.
We love it.
Yeah. So can I talk more about the connection thing?
Yes. Absolutely.
So because this is something a drum I was beating before the pandemic, because I was putting my finger on the pulse of some research that has to do with loneliness. And I found the first study ever a few years ago, first study ever where they actually, there's a thing called the UCLA loneliness scale, where they actually use this scale to measure loneliness in a primary care, your family doctor's offices kind of thing. And they found that 20% of people who came into their offices were significantly lonely, like not just, I wish I knew more people, but like lonely, like that ache, Hank Williams Sr., I'm so lonesome I can cry, that kind of lonely. So that has been like on my radar. And so I had a lot of reasons to be really concerned when the pandemic hit because I thought, okay, that's going to make it even much more worser. But anyway, and I was looking at some other stuff. And like, for example, a nationally representative survey showed, this is before the pandemic, 13% of folks said that they had 0 people who knew them well. 0 people who knew them well. Can you imagine going through life and having no one that you feel knows you well,
right?
Who knows the contours of your heart, who knows the contents of your mind, who gives a shit about you. I mean, because if you don't know anybody well, of course they don't care about you, right? So that's the subtext there. But 13%, and that's a goodly percent, right, of folks who I feel like nobody knows me well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be what I would think of as a living hell. I mean, really going through life with completely adrift and not feeling like anybody not just knows you, but if they don't know you, they can't have your back. They can't be there for you in hard times. They can't be there to be your listening post, etc. So there's a lot of stuff. And by the way, when you look at the other, I said I had my finger on the pulse of this research. There's these studies that show from a health standpoint. Let me back up a little bit. There was a study some years ago that talked about sitting is the new smoking, meaning a sedentary. I have a song about this, by the way. Sitting is the new smoking. Yeah. So
Nice.
it basically talks about how the negative health effects of a sedentary lifestyle.
Yes.
Well, there's a new
Yes.
smoking, which is loneliness. And so I've been saying loneliness is the new smoking because they've shown that the health effects of being lonely, significantly lonely, like I said in that study, is like smoking, I forget, 20 cigarettes a day, something like that, in terms of the negative health effects.
Wow.
So there's actually significant negative health effects of being lonely. And we think about how could that be? That sounds like voodoo. How do you know? But you think about what it is, and we are herd animals. I mean, by definition, human beings are built for connection. It's an unnatural state to be disconnected from other people, and it sort of the safety of the herd, if you will. If you don't feel like there's I hear the word tribe a lot. Your tribe, your herd, your people. If you don't feel like you have them, it causes significant stress. The very thing that I was talking to 19-year-old Dan about, the general adaptation syndrome. You feel like you're part of and could be attacked at any moment by something that is overwhelming to you as an individual, but yet is manageable if you're part of a herd, if you're part of a pack, if you're part of a group, even a dyad of 2 people. So all that to say, we really should be concerned about. And by the way, also you look back at heartbreakingly, New England Journal of Medicine study came out right after Sandy Hook, 10 more years ago now, and now we're in Groundhog Day all over again. We're seeing these babies die, and the psychological profile. It's not mental illness, as I was saying before. It's not about that. It's about disaffected, disconnected, alienated, angry, mostly white guys. There's a toxicity there that we have to get our hands around, our arms around, and figure out how to fix that, or we're going to continue to have these awful, horrific events like we've just seen. So anyway, the human connection is the medicine for that cures. It's not a panacea, but it's damn close.
Right.
It fixes so many things that alprazolam can't, that sertraline can't, that all those polysyllabic, sorry, Jody, polypharmacy words can't fix. human connection. It's nourishment. We need it like we need to breathe.
I 100% agree with that. Can I suggest something? We're at about an hour and a half. Do you still have time to hang out?
I'm okay.
Can I suggest playing a song and we go take a potty break?
Yeah, that's going to
play
be
another one of Paul's songs, and we'll take a little potty break, and we'll be back because we're going to stay live. Keep your comments coming. There are a few comments. I just want to jut in here real quick. It's super cute. Jared says, Jared Isaacs, he says, Susie didn't know a lot about the buttocks, but I heard she had sucked a few dicks. That rhymes, doesn't it?
Oh, that's a near rhyme, I think we would call that, but it's a winner.
Maybe.
Ding, 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 ding.
Jared says, so Paul prescribes a buttocks flex to help with stress. I'd hate to imagine what he suggests we flex for hope.
Oh, I think you know, brother. I think you know.
And Bev was saying, yes, lonely. I totally understand it. Hi, Joshua. He says, so you're saying as long as I have friends, I can keep smoking. Got it.
I was going to ask that same question, Josh. Like, if I don't feel lonely, can I keep smoking?
If I don't feel...
And then earlier, Shell was saying you need to Boys to Men It. She was talking about the new song that you're going to write, Boys to Men It.
Yes.
So we're going to take just a little bitty break. We're going to put it back over here on camera 4. Look at some of Paul's stuff that he brought, and maybe we'll talk about it a little
rock
bit.
And roll, like,
and we'll be.
If we were a rock and roll band, yeah, the very first one at the top.
Okay, all right.
This is yeah.
All right, and we will be back.
It could be short or long, but we'd all have crazy hair, and everywhere we went, everybody'd stop and stare. We looked super cool, playing the high school dance, wearing Ray-Ban shades every time we got the chance, yeah. We'd never wear no khakis, only black leather pants, if we were a rock and roll band. If we were a rock and roll band, we'd have a Gibson Les Paul or an old Fender Strat, and they'd be beat all to hell because we like them like that. Just like that. We'd have a gut bucket bass and a kick drum that thumps, and screaming to the mic at the top of our lungs, yeah. We wouldn't need no piano, just guitar, bass, and drums if we were a rock and roll band. If we were a rock and roll band. In the future, we'll all be famous on this 15-minute ride. And if we go make it big, at least we'll know we tried. Like we're a rock and roll band. We play switch on and be good, run up the stairway to heaven, crank out smoke on the water with our amps on 11. Yeah. We only know 3 chords, so you might think we suck, but that's one more than we need to play just like a punk. Like a bunch of punks. We wouldn't play no country, couldn't play no funk if we were a rock and roll band. If we were a rock and roll band. In the future, we'll all be famous and make our mamas proud. If we're gonna do it at all, we're gonna do it loud. 'Cause we're a rock and roll band. Well, I can drink my fill of the red wine and sip all I want of the whiskey. But no matter how much I try, I'll never get enough of you with me. I'll never get enough, never get enough. I'll never get enough of you with me. I'll never get enough, never get enough. I'll never get enough of you with me. No. Well, I can get too much sun on my face, forget how easily I burn. But no matter how much we share the same space, I'll never get enough of you, girl. No, I'll never get enough, never get enough. I'll never get enough of you, girl. I'll never get enough, never get enough. I'll never get enough of you, my wanderlust can be satisfied if I cross enough mountains and rivers. But no matter how much you're by my side, can't seem to get enough of you ever. Can't get enough, can't get enough. I can't get enough of you ever. I can't get enough, can't get enough. I can't get enough of you ever. I'll never get enough, never get enough. I'll never get enough of you with me. I'll never get enough, never get enough. I'll never get enough of you with me. I'll never get enough. She starts dancing, everybody stop. Everybody stop and watch her groove. When she starts dancing, everybody stop. Everybody stop and watch her groove. She threw her head back, she threw her arms up when Lulu shakes off her blues. When Lulu shakes off her blues. Her attention with the boom boom bop when the drummer do the thing that he do. He gets
Hey
her
guys, we're
attention
kind of
with the
back,
boom,
and
boom,
we've
bop
had
when the drummer do the thing that he
we've been
do.
what's
She threw her
happened?
head back, she threw her arms up. That's
We've been
how
invaded,
Lulu
so we're quickly trying to
shakes
set a
off
way
her
up to. You want to check to these complete surprise, uninvited for sure. And in fact, I don't even want them here.
shakes off her blues.
Of course, they are welcome. It's a surprise because they're still out on the front porch. So you'll see here in a minute. She be true. She's her own girl from the bottom to the top, and to her own self she be true. She throw her head back, she throw her arms up every time Lulu shakes off her blues. Yeah. Test that mic real
Every
quick.
time Lulu.
Check, check, check. Hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, technical stuff, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Check. Hey. Hi. Hey.
Yeah, it's
We're
working.
getting there. We had a surprise, so we're going to enact our surprise. All right.
Heck yeah.
Back at it.
Heck yeah.
That mic is on there now.
Come on, baby.
Before everybody decides to sit.
Come on in here. Sit on my lap.
Yeah, baby.
We even have paper towels in case she starts crying. 'Cause Whenever she gets happy, she cries. When she gets sad, she cries. So we got paper towels for you.
Oh,
Julia's like, who?
Who that?
Jared says, but you read that all pale and shit because of his little rhyme he did earlier.
Joe. My friends just left me. I'm gonna have a cigarette.
I'm gonna have a cigarette. good context right there.
It's hard to be that tall and that funny at the same time. But he does it.
Together.
But he does it. He does it. Did you grab me one, babe?
Jeez, Dan.
Buttocks.
Where are they at?
A few dicks.
I suppose.
meant to
Jared
protect
Isaacs ain't right
butt
in his
dicks,
head.
a few dicks.
He's all right.
Julia Drake Cobb says,
What?
okay, so now it's like officially a little party in here.
Almost.
Yes.
Once we get Joshy Poo.
Joshy Poo. So Identity Crisis just got done with their rehearsal. So
Boom, boom, boom.
we
I
have-
was wondering why they're still together.
yeah.
Because, believe it or not, we haven't broken up yet.
They still like each
despite
other.
what you may or may not hear.
Still like each other after rehearsal. When you hang out
Actually,
after rehearsal,
we kind of love each other.
That's awesome.
We have a whole lot of fun at rehearsal, and the only reason we left as early as we did because we saw that these crazies were still
We're still
their
going.
thing.
We're
we're
Doing their
still
thing.
going. So we were like, you know what?
Doing
Let's
this
book
thing.
it.
I'm so
That's why
glad
we're
you guys
here.
joined
Oh,
us.
that door open is awesome. It was getting.
It is nice.
It was
It's
getting
cool.
super
It
hot.
is
in here.
party nice
Yeah, party.
on a May
Party.
evening.
May
Please don't party.
26 be with you.
When's that going to get old, though? I mean, when you get
It's already old, believe me.
I've been
it's
doing it
like
over
3
a
weeks
year.
old.
I've been doing it over a year.
It's not 3 weeks old. It's a year
It's
and
a
3
year.
weeks old.
Yeah, it's a year.
365.
Every show we do, whether it's Monday morning or this one, yeah, it's May the whatever.
And Monday
Yeah.
morning medication fell on May the 3rd this year.
Yeah.
So I was one day away. I almost went
You
live.
shoehorned it anyway, though, didn't you? You made it
May
work.
the third
Yeah.
medication be the one for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I almost went live on, well, not live. I almost posted an episode for Tuesday and just said, welcome to Monday morning medication. May the 4th be with you.
But
Just
last
stopped it.
year, our Monday morning medication was on May the 4th.
Uh,
So
that's how
where
it got started.
It
And I went
actually
on a big
was.
rant about how
stupid
how
it was.
silly Star Wars people
I
are.
saw that.
Unless
offended half
your
of the
wife
population.
dressed in a slave Leia costume, and then it becomes all the rage. So just saying, you should get one just so he'll stop bitching
True.
for one day
True.
out here.
With the
Be like,
Kaiser
okay, you're
bun
right, I'm
hair.
The
sorry.
Kaiser bun. Well,
No, it's not the bun with the slave Leia.
Oh,
It's
the
the-
slave.
Oh, that's
the-
right.
It's
Oh,
the,
yeah.
with the braid and the chain around the neck, and
Do you remember
know.
that?
yeah.
I do remember that. barely.
Adolescent Paul remembers.
Adolescent Paul.
Saint Paul.
Before the buttocks, Paul.
Before the butt.
For the buttocks.
BTB, before the buttocks.
That was before he would perform Talk Dirty to me as well.
That's right.
Had a moral issue with it.
a
Did you
moral
remember,
issue.
man? Your
Oh,
memory
yeah.
is a thing of wonder.
His is. Mine is not.
His is.
His
That
is.
that rhymes too.
His is.
His is. Did you look that up on Rhyme Zone?
Did.
His is.
It's totally something I looked
His
at
is.
while I was in the bathroom.
His is.
His is. His is.
Depends on how you pronounce
His
it.
is. His is. All kinds of chaos and
Disorder.
disorder.
Don't you
So-
look at me like that, Daniel Fritz.
Aaron Gabriel.
Gabriella. Roll the R's or
I
don't do it
also,
at all.
You
I
had
also
to.
remember Aaron stealing her mom's van when she was younger.
Oh,
too.
Jesus Christ. This is all in my story. Why are we bringing this up again?
Grand larceny?
Because
Yeah.
it was great. It
Completely.
I was 15, Paul. Look, okay, as the
She was a
as
naughty
the-
girl.
As
Aaron's
the
episode is
mind,
29.
As the mind meld, going in person that you are. I don't know how to say that.
Psychomalologist.
Psychomalologist. Look, we drink Fireball at rehearsal. Let's be honest. Here.
Well, we drank Fireball for your interview as well.
we did
The whole fucking
Yes,
bottle.
we did a whole bottle.
Hers
I
is
explained
episode
that to Sheila.
29. If you want to
29.
hear Aaron's.
Aaron Gabriel.
Amazing.
Is it 29?
Talk about
Joshua.
amazing memory.
I have.
Joshua.
Hey, Paul. This is my memory right here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, let me refresh my
that's
memory.
awesome.
It's a beautiful list. right
Joshua.
here.
Senator.
What episode?
Joshua. Do you remember your own episode?
Joshua.
Number 42.
42.
Number 42.
Do you know what
No
else 42
way.
is?
So you know
Name
what's
two
funny?
other things that 42 is significant
Well, there's a
for.
baseball
42.
thing.
Jackie Robinson's number
It's the
and
answer to everything, and life
Douglas
itself.
Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. It's
Funny
the answer to
enough,
everything.
my next birthday
There you go.
is 42.
So-
So that's our
By
theme
ex-
for my next birthday.
So by extension, Joshua Poole is the
Yeah,
answer
listen
to
my
everything.
episode.
He
It's
is.
the answer to everything.
It is
Joshua Poole is the answer to everything.
I'm gonna go.
They
With
never-
that. I'm gonna go with that. I'm just yeah.
I still don't know if you're a narcissist.
You're still trying to figure it out.
That was one thing he tried to
not.
evaluate
First
Dan.
question. So am I a narcissist?
First question.
No,
How much time we got?
no, he's
Let me bring a
definitely
pool
not.
of water and have you bend over and look at yourself for a moment.
A pool
And
of water.
if you die there, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
That's a more of a Greek mythology than a psychological reference, but it works.
Right.
Works wonderfully.
oh my god.
So Julia is advertising for her hubby's birthday party. Hey, so
Where's
this
that?
weekend we're hosting that 70s weekend at the house, watching Dazed and Confused on Saturday the 28th, since that's the day the movie takes place. Lots of 70s TV, board games, and we're figuring out how to do fondue. Come on up. She's up in Kansas City area.
Fondue.
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 Totally.
Julie, gotta make a fondue.
And Shell says, long time no see, Miss Erin.
Oh man, it's good to see you. I can't really
Alrighty.
see you, but your profile picture is very little.
It's very tiny.
It's very little. I have great eyesight, but not that
Not
good.
that tiny.
Not that
Tiny
good.
little picture.
Right on.
It's been a long time.
It's been
Yeah.
a while since chaos has occurred in this house as well.
We've got the lion's share of identity crisis in here.
That's
so
right.
what are you guys rehearsing for?
We got half of identity crisis
Half.
in here. 'Cause
Okay, half.
That's almost 50%.
I wasn't sure how many was in the
We're
band.
semi-crisis.
semi-crisis.
We're
semi-crisis.
slightly. We are unidentified crisis.
Crisis tonight.
We're the anti-crisis.
We kind of
Anti-crisis.
Anti-crisis.
Anti-crisis. That's fantastic.
All right.
No, this
Those are
is.
my podcast chops.
This is. Yeah.
My podcast
you're
chops.
So,
Oh, by the way,
For days.
Sundays, 5 o'clock. Have you
Yes.
heard about this?
What is it?
Sundays at 5
Yeah.
o'clock.
5
Have you heard?
o'clock.
No way.
There's an audio roast podcast.
Oh, really?
Not podcast, the audio roast show.
The Audio Roast Show.
So good.
That's right. And it's like you guys sit there and call people and make really strange noises to people who take surveys.
That's right.
It was so funny.
So good.
That was last week. I wasn't filming.
I'm just-
well,
That was
I'm playing.
hilarious.
It was
Yeah.
so funny.
That's funny.
Yeah, audio roast at 5 o'clock. And you
Gene
guys,
Whedon and Jim Cox were on.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was good. That was fun. They were both just being
They were
100%
just-
themselves.
This
which
was
was
Yes.
good.
beautiful.
So
They were
rotten
just
as shit.
recently on.
Rotten.
Yeah.
And Julie is
that's
correcting me. This is not her husband's birthday. This is just that 70s weekend. Her husband's birthday is July 8th, and we're all invited to that as well. So,
All right.
all right. I saw all kinds of stuff she was posting.
Yeah.
on there,
Yeah.
so.
We were actually down at
Cake.
Tiki Bar July 9th. So
Kansas City area.
that's so she's up in KC.
It's in that area.
Blue Springs or
Lee Summit, I think.
Lee Summit.
Pretty sure.
Pat Metheny's from there.
From Lee Summit?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Who knows Pat Metheny?
I know Pat.
I don't
Yeah,
know
I
him
knew you
personally.
No.
I don't know him personally
I know
either.
the name, but
Dig that hair.
speaking of personally, Paul, what's the pictures on the piano?
Yeah,
What
so
are
you
those?
said to bring like show and tell stuff. So
Yes.
this is a couple things that I told you that I'm playing guitar with Tommy Two Tone,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done it a few times. And this is the record with Jenny on it, 8675309. And it took me a couple of gigs for him to actually. The first time it was just thanks, Paul, and then this one he wrote love ya.
Oh, man.
It took me a couple gigs for him to love me.
Wait.
So, but I'm worked on it
Are
real
you
hard.
working on the Love You?
Love,
Are
that's
you,
next.
Are you? I
That's
was gonna
next.
say.
I'm out
Yeah.
of records.
Dude, that's
So
another
it's gonna be on a
level shit.
cocktail,
The
cocktail
love
napkin.
You, and then
Love
you put the I in front of it.
I love you.
You.
Yes.
Tommy's never.
And then
gonna
it'll
say
get
that.
really weird when he puts the I in
so,
front of it.
Yeah, so that's fun. That little thing. And then that was from John Ford Coley of England, Dan and John Ford Coley
Nice.
fame, which I grew up listening to on the little AM GPX AM radio at Nights Are Forever Without You, all that stuff. I got
Oh,
to play with
that's so
him.
good.
And so I got that record that he signed for me. So yeah, just a couple of little fun
My
things from
band
my
opened
last
for
year.
Dan Seals.
Dan Seals?
Back in the country days, my band opened for Dan Seals
God.
way back when.
John told us all kinds of really cool stories
He's a
about
good guy.
Dan Seals. Yeah,
He was a
and
good guy.
they unfortunately talk about connection. They went their separate ways and like didn't talk to each other till Dan was on his deathbed, which was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But they did get to reconnect before he went to the next
Yeah.
place. So
Nice. That's good.
yeah, but
And-
yeah, what an amazing voice, huh?
Uh-huh. Both of them.
Beautiful,
Both of them
beautiful
together.
voice. Yeah,
But
and
Dan
together
Seals
they
was
were
great.
magic. Yeah, for sure. for sure.
How about some stuff that's on the floor over there?
Oh yeah, so that's just some paintings I did.
It's just some paintings. No.
Yeah, I'm like some of my favorite, like Freddie Mercury and Prince.
Oh,
and
I think
Jimi
people's going to
Hendrix.
want to see them.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting my ass up and looking at these.
Okay,
Oh, he's
okay,
gonna
okay.
show.
So this is just a little, obviously from, this is Freddie, who's like one of my, maybe the favorite singer of all time. So I did, during the pandemic, I was like, I really should do something besides, navel gazing.
Right.
So I started, and I was in art in high school, so I hadn't painted since then, but I kind of pulled a couple things out.
That's
Did
awesome.
that.
Little Freddie
From Bohemian, right?
from Bohemian Rhapsody, and there's a little
Oh my
recognize
God.
that dude. Yeah, so
I need that in my life. Polly T, I need
really
that in my
cool.
life.
I love it.
Oh, I'm gonna start
I
employing
did
you.
this
to
on
do some
different
stuff.
colors, but there's
Nice.
the one and only James Marshall Hendricks.
Nice.
So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Very cool. Who knew
Didn't
you were an
know
artist
Paul
too?
Thomlinson
That's
was a
amazing.
painter.
That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
didn't either. I forgot that I did
You forgot.
visual arts. So
It's
I
really cool. I
had
love
some fun with it.
the concept of that art too. It's like, especially the Freddie one. It's just kind of it's shadowy. It's a little bit like
Elvis,
like,
yeah.
Elvis did
Because
that.
Elvis's.
I suck at the representational photographic kind. I can't do that. But I was like, I can stylize it,
Yeah.
and
it
do
looks totally
something.
like him.
Yeah, so you get, it's iconic in a way, like literally the meaning of the word. Like that's, get the image of it,
Mm-hmm.
but without having to have the skills to actually like do flesh tones and
Right,
all this stuff,
right.
which I
And
am
all that-
100% incapable of
And
doing.
hands.
Yeah,
Don't
hands.
ever make
Yeah,
me try
forget
to do
about
hands.
it.
It's
And the
sausage,
blending.
that's where
Forget about
sausage fingers come
The
from.
blending.
It's me trying
Oh
to-
yeah, you blend.
You blend.
No, they did it.
In art class, I was always really good at hands. I could draw hands like crazy, but I couldn't draw faces. There were always like the eyes were up here, and, like
A little Picasso
couldn't-
action.
Yeah.
I always it was totally
Yeah,
like
that's
their
my
face
style.
I
was
invented cubism
all
because I
this
couldn't
big.
paint for shit.
But hands, I could do like any kind of hands. I was really good at that, but that was
Wow.
it. That was it. But
So
faces
you're like a savant at painting hands.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's weird,
wasn't
but I love
that
it.
good. Wasn't
When
that
you can
good.
say it's
good.
hand painted.
It's hand painted.
Oh,
That's funny.
look at this one over here.
But let me back up and say it was pencil
Gabrielle.
sketch. Pencil
Pencil
sketch, not
sketch.
painting.
Okay,
But
okay,
anywho.
okay.
Oh my gosh, we got comments. So that's a little callback, right? To your thing. Episode 42, hike. That's your episode coming up Sunday?
No, that was my episode.
Oh, episode 42. Okay, he was just answering that. So
Julia mentioned Pat Metheny.
yes. I work in Lee's Summit, home of Pat Metheny, guitarist extraordinaire and collaborator
100%.
with David Bowie on Falcon
Falcon
and
and Snowman. Who was in that
soundtrack.
movie? Who was in that movie? Timothy Hutton. Remember him?
Really? I love Timothy Hutton. I live in Odessa. She's in Odessa,
big,
not
big
Lee's
house
Summit. She
with
works in
lots
Lee's
and
Summit. I
lots
think.
of
30 miles, big old
It's a
house,
big,
lots of room for
big
everyone.
table
If you
with
do get
lots and
drunk.
lots of food.
And I have a stack of brand new
Big
PJs for anyone
house. We
to
can
take
play
from.
football.
Remember.
It's a big,
We have
big
offices
house.
there in Odessa.
It's
What do
my
you-
father's house.
What did Jared say?
Jared says navel gazing. That was a great comment earlier. So are you big into oranges or sailors? Disregard the spelling.
Well, I
Spelled
like
differently.
orange juice with my Irish breakfast, and I cuss like a sailor. Does that count, Jared?
Navel and navel. They're homonyms. Jared. Homonyms.
Jared.
You're dominant.
They're yeah.
Homonyms.
But spelled differently.
Yep.
And I'm really thinking about the naval eel, but neither orange
Nor
sailor,
sailor.
nor
No
YMCA in the Navy.
Yeah.
No.
So I wonder if our medication, screamer medication information can tell me this, or you probably could.
What?
Why is it called a navel?
It's an excellent question. I have no idea.
Because it looks like the navel of an orange.
I thought the orange,
I think
the
it's the
navel
other way
orange,
around,
was
yeah.
called that because it looks like a belly button.
I don't believe so.
What's
because
the origin?
Which came first?
What's the
Which came first?
etymology? You know, what's the
I
etymology?
The orange.
The etymology.
I believe the orange came first, and it was probably a derivative. The name navel, the word navel, is probably whatever they called the navel of an orange in another language, and we adapted that because ours is.
If we were in the
Are you
Hollywood
making that
Squares,
up?
I would be
No.
going.
Okay.
I
That's
disagree.
my belief. I
The
don't
orange
know.
came
I'm saying
first.
that's what I am assuming is that
The
the,
orange came
did in
first.
fact come first. And then somebody was like,
orange always
"Yo,
comes first.
my
In the
belly button
beginning,
looks like
God
an
Poor
orange."
created
orange.
the orange.
Can they get help for that?
Clementine, tangerine, whatever.
That's fine.
Tangerine.
They always come first. Selfish bastards.
No, like I said,
They
if I was on the
always come
Hollywood
first.
Squares, I would disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Yeah, I'd
X
say
gets the
I
square.
that was some
disagree.
good BS though.
Hey, well, you know, my
Fantastic.
eyes are a beautiful shade of shit brown.
Totally believable.
Fine.
So
Okay.
the word navel comes from the Anglo-Saxon word naphela. The Romans called the belly button under the umbilicus. The Greeks called it the omphalios.
Makes sense.
So
because there's
this
like a
came
birth.
first. This
Came
came
Yeah,
first.
this one here.
This right over here.
See,
Let's all do it right
See,
now.
that's why I
Let's
said
two things
I
we gotta
didn't
do right
know
now.
for sure. I was assuming.
Two things we got to do right now.
things,
Flex your buttocks and gaze at your navel.
I can't see it.
Everybody.
Gaze at your navel a little
Both
bit.
of those
I
are
can't
very
see
good for your mental health. I'm a doctor. Don't just trust me.
Oh, we got some Screamer Dreamer information as well, Joshua. So from fruitguys.com, like she gives credit to her sources. That's
Cite
great.
her sources.
The navel orange actually grows a second twin fruit opposite its stem. The second fruit remains underdeveloped, but from the outside it resembles the human navel, hence the name. So I was right.
But you did an excellent job of
I was
BSing.
right.
That's-
I didn't know, and I'm assuming. Why am I being attacked?
You
You're
actually
not.
were pretty damn close.
You were very
according to that.
convincing.
It was just opposite.
You were
I
very
just said I
convincing.
disagree.
I gave a good reason as to why I believed that the navel was first. I
if you-
was just wrong.
But I want to know if you could have passed a lie detector test while you were telling it.
Yeah.
I bet she could have.
Because you might have convinced yourself,
No,
which is the terrifying
I
part.
believed that what I was saying could be legitimate. So yes, I would have.
This could be real.
This could be.
So I'm going to say it like I believe it, just like Amber Heard.
Hey,
Amber Alert.
I would never punch Johnny Depp.
I know.
Or shit in his bed.
No, she didn't punch him. She hit him. There's a big difference.
Oh,
Huge
excuse
difference.
me.
Yeah.
She told him that.
excuse
She
In
said
court.
I didn't punch you.
In
Did she
court,
really?
she
I
said,
hit him.
I didn't, well, on tape.
I didn't
and then
punch
she
him.
reiterated that.
Wow.
But Johnny, I didn't punch you. I hit you.
Wow.
Yeah, thank
That's
you
her
for that.
excuse. Wow.
Really, thank you for slicing that
bigger picture?
semantic orange for
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
Appreciate
Back
that.
to navels.
to that. What
Yeah.
the hell? I got to go back and watch all this.
Yeah.
Just for
It's entertaining.
entertainment. I literally got a text from a psychologist friend of mine saying, "Are you seeing this today?" I'm like, "No, I am not." She's like, "It is literally crazy." I mean, which is a clinical
Yeah.
term.
Absolutely.
What,
Apparently
the
for
trial
Amber Heard.
For what's happening
Yeah.
today? I haven't seen it.
Oh, today's was fire.
Today was
So
rough.
is it? I mean, is
Closing
this,
arguments are tomorrow.
It's closing. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
If that's what.
And then
Closing arguments
all
tomorrow
I see
morning.
is the little
Wowza.
shit that comes across my my Facebook feed. Like, you know what I mean? And every once in a while, I'll be like, what'd she say? Well, I can only imagine, so we'll listen.
Oh my God.
Because, wow.
Yeah, and
Just
that
been enjoying the
that little
memes.
attorney, man, what's her name? Claire? What's her name? Camille.
Camille.
is the best. Johnny's attorney. One of Johnny's attorneys. She's
She good?
She's ruthless.
She worth the money.
Love it.
She's
'Cause
worth
you know
the money.
He pay him.
Oh, of course,
Camille.
he's got a team.
And you know, he paying Camille. Maybe with some else other money. I'm sorry,
Camille
Johnny.
getting
but she
paid.
cute.
Some of the
some of that sauvage money. You know
some
what
of
I'm
the
saying?
witnesses, some of the witnesses are getting $1,000 an hour to be involved.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
The professional.
hired guns.
What
Yeah,
are they called?
Expert
Expert
witnesses.
Yeah,
witnesses.
expert witnesses.
Yeah, there's
Oh.
people that make a whole career.
Have you
out
ever
of
done that?
Yeah, I have.
in
yeah.
a
interesting.
in a trial?
Wow.
How was it?
Wow.
It's. I don't want to do it anymore.
No.
Did you
it's-
get 1,000 an hour?
No, I never did that.
No,
Never did
$950.
I have one of my guitars that might have been paid
Right.
for. Almost
So if
one.
If
With the small
I
headstock.
mysterious
Pointy small.
somebody, Paul, what would you need?
Paul, I swear, I want to send you a clip of a psychologist, of Amber's psychologist. He's an absolute basket case to me. Like, I'm not.
Was that today?
No,
He
it's,
was 2 days ago.
He was 2 days ago or something. He is an absolute, in my professional opinion, an idiot.
Is it? What's his name? Do you know?
I don't
Is
know
it
his
Siegel?
name. I don't know, but he's like
He looks like the doc.
the
from-
doc from
Back to the
Future.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a little bit of that.
Is there something wrong with the gravitational pull on your time?
Some of the stuff he was saying was making sense though. So I don't know if he's
21 gigawatts.
yeah. I don't know if he actually might be total genius or a complete idiot.
Right, and
It
so
could be
that's
both.
why
Isn't that
Yeah,
that
they're not
always
mutually
Working for her,
exclusive.
I'm gonna go with
isn't
the
that a
latter.
known kind of like
Yeah. It's a fine line.
But he was
Right.
he was giving dissertation. Even the judge said, "You're giving dissertation instead of answering the question." And so he would talk real fast, and the lawyer would try to cut in, and he would continue and talk over, and then finally the judge was like, "Sir, you need to give answers to the question rather
Answer
than a
the question.
dissertation."
I really need to watch this. It may have been who my friend was talking about. She texted me and she's like, "Have you seen?" His name's Siegel. And she's
could
like,
be.
"Have you seen this
been.
testimony?" I'm like, "I have not, but I must go back and watch it
So
now."
I'm gonna I'm gonna look up and see if his name was.
Who that? Who that talking about Amber?
Amber Siegel. And then we get a video of her being attacked by seagulls, and we all get happy and laugh for a little bit.
Well, Dawn is one.
Mine.
Mine.
Everybody's seen Finding Nemo. All
Oh
the
my
parents
God.
in the room know
Yes.
the mine reference.
Absolutely.
Incredible movie.
It is a masterpiece.
It is
if
a
I
masterpiece.
Say so.
Might be a psychiatrist. Let me see.
Oh, when the crabs come out of the sewer
Figures.
train and they're
Yeah.
like, they're from Boston or whatever.
So.
Hey, over here.
Oh yeah.
Hey, the crabs. Yeah, the crabs were my favorite.
Hey, dude. The East Australian current. Yeah. It's like Spicoli has a sea turtle. That was so good. Surfer
It's
dude,
Spiegel.
sea turtle.
It's that guy.
Spiegel. Yep, that's
Spiegel.
the Spiegel. That's the guy she was talking about, not Siegel. Spiegel. So I can't wait to watch this so I can respond to my friend intelligently.
There are so many clips you can just.
Oh. 121 gigawatts.
Yeah, Screamer Dreamer Information and Stephanie. They're Spiegel. They're like Dr. Spiegel.
They're Spiegel.
Dr.
I'm gonna have to check it
Spiegel.
out.
Anyway, so he's a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, which brings me to a wonderful question.
Yes.
What the hell's the difference?
So psychiatrists are MDs. They're medical doctors who go through medical school, do the whole residency thing, and they are able to prescribe medicine. They're the ones who typically, I would say they're the ones who prescribe the psychiatric medications. But actually, the research shows about the lion's share of them are prescribed by family physicians. But that's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Psychologists have, for example, PhD. I have a PhD, PsyD, a doctoral degree in psychology. But there's some blurred lines because, for example, in 5 states, psychologists also have prescription privileges. With additional postdoc training and certification. You can prescribe medications in certain states. So the lines are blurred in some states, but that's the basic difference. Is one's an MD, and in practical terms, and I do not want to offend any of my friends who are psychiatrists, and they're wonderful, but their practice patterns are that they typically see people, for example, the first time for maybe 30 minutes or maybe an hour to do the assessment evaluation, and then they see them for maybe 10, 15 minutes for med checks thereafter, where they check in, make sure everything's. But they don't do a lot of what you see on TV, where psychiatrists are doing psychotherapy. Almost none that I know do any real psychotherapy.
Working through your issues with
Exactly.
your
They'll-
past, how you got to like why you think the way that you do, why you
They
react to
assess.
things.
They don't.
In
they don't
actual
treat.
practice, that does very rarely happens with psychiatrists because their time is so valuable as prescribers that's what people want to see them for, is to get their medication right. And that's a really important job. Make sure that you get the medication dialed in, and make sure that it's the most effective medication strategy for that particular condition or whatever. But they simply don't have time in their practice patterns as they are currently constructed to do psychotherapy, which is the talking cure, which typically requires 30 to 45 or an hour per session or more, and that's almost always the province of psychologists and professional counselors, social workers, who are typically do the lion's share of the psychotherapy work in the world.
So as a professional yourself, so would you suggest if you are dealing with issues, you go to a psychologist and then you go to your psychiatrist? Is that kind of how it works? Like that? Is that the kind of, you go to somebody to talk about what your issues are so you can get and get to the root of the issue? Because if it is something, if it's product of environment, it's whatever, you know what I mean? Or your life up into that point.
Yeah.
It's like, or if it's something else. Is it
question.
chemical imbalance, or is it just you need a new way of looking at things and seeing, and reacting to things? So that's what I wonder is like, is that kind of the process? You go to psychologist and then you go psychiatrist if you need medication.
Hopefully I like to think of it as, for where I work at Compass, I mean, we try to think of a no wrong doors approach. So if you come in and you see a psychiatrist and you need to see a psychologist, that will refer you. If you need a case manager, a community support worker, integrated health specialist is what we call it, that you'll get one of those. But it's a really important question because to me, it's about one of the other drum beats of my professional life is about integration of care, which is we need to make sure that all the people that need to care for this person are on the team. And I'm a big fan, for example, I said in reality, last time I looked, something like 60+% of all the antidepressants are prescribed by family doctors or nurse practitioners in family practice kind of settings. But they oftentimes don't have the follow-up that's necessary. So I'm a big fan of having your medication managed by somebody like a primary care provider, especially given the shortage of psychiatrists that we have in this country, which is devastating. So having it managed by someone like that, and then seeing a therapist, a psychologist, or a counselor, social worker for therapy, and making sure that you have a collaborative, that you have more than one set of eyes on your set of issues, if you will. And so you get the care you need. And if you need a referral to, because there are a lot of organic physiological conditions that masquerade as mental health problems. So when somebody who's going to say, you need to go see a neurologist because, have you ever had a brain scan? And by the way, psychiatrists will tell you, this is one of the other mind-boggling things to me, is that, you think about a cardiologist who never orders an EKG or a CAT scan or an MRI, or think about a psychiatrist. Almost never do they have the ability to order a brain scan. Almost never do the people that they're prescribing these medications for get their brain scanned for either electrophysiology or magnetic resonance or any of those things. So it's like they're treating an organ that they almost never image, which is kind of mind-boggling in a way. And we need to fix that, although that's a tall order. But these days, hell, there may be an iPhone app to do that before we get out of this room. But being able to look at the brain function and see what's happening and evaluate the change over time in your brain as a result of having gone on that antidepressant or that benzodiazepine, that anti-anxiety medicine, or whatever it might be. Anyway, as a long answer to a relatively brief question, but I really am a big fan of teams of folks providing care, because it's so easy for one individual, like the old metaphor of the wise men grabbing onto the elephant and describing one little piece of it. We all have a little piece of you in some ways, and some have a little more perspective than others. It's really hard for a psychiatrist in 15 minutes every 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever to really have all the information that a psychotherapist gets in a weekly hour-long session, for example. So we need to be talking to each other. And that's one of the trainings I'm doing right now, is teaching folks that we need to be talking across lines and sharing information about how folks are doing so that we can dial it in. They don't call it the practice of medicine for nothing.
Right.
They practicing, trying to get it right. Trying to get it right,
Right.
Anyway. I hope that answered your question.
No, it does. Well, because that makes sense, especially with the brain scanning and things like that. So it's like you can be listening to somebody be like, "You're an absolute freaking nut job." Okay, well, then 2 weeks later they find out they have a freaking tumor pressing on something in their brain, and it's like, you're not a nut job at all. Your brain is jacked. And it's nothing that's a great point. That is a great point.
But it's really, you bring up the larger point, which is that we tend to really think about this part of the body as being completely separate from everything else, and it ain't.
And it's not.
We're all one huge organism that is interconnected in a million ways. And if you talk about research, talk about what we've learned since I first started. We've learned so much about the interconnections, about how the gut has such intimate connections to the brain that when we talk about feeling it in our gut, there's a real good reason for that, because it's connected to your nervous system in ways that we had no idea about some 20, 30 years ago. And there's a real strong connection.
Haven't there been some studies about how certain food allergies can affect autism and the intensity of autism?
100%. Yep.
Well, it's like I have a nerve disorder that causes issues with my muscles.
Yep.
And it's that correlation. It's like we don't think about it. It's something that I never realized that I was dealing with, because it didn't feel like nerves. It was all, weird contractions and pulses and things like that, and tensing up and not being able to control certain things at certain times. and not realize, and it growing as I age, and then finding out that it's actually to do with my nerves as opposed to my muscles, but my nerves were firing so rapidly that it was causing all my muscles to contract. So it's like fatigue and just weird things that would happen. I'm like, why am I feeling like this? Because it didn't make sense. So it's that same aspect. It's like there's so many different reasons why we can be feeling or acting or thinking the way that we do, because we're one giant organism, and it's like, and everything reacts to everything else.
Yeah, and this whole idea of nutrition and the gut connection, like, I mean, I've become really personally aware of just how important that is in the last year or so.
You are half the man you used to be, baby.
Like that Billy Crystal movie, I've lost an entire Backstreet Boy. But it's like, but it's more than that. It's just the cognitive clarity, the emotional health, the sleep effects of what you take into your body. And let's just face it, we have the shittiest diets in the history of the world these days. I mean, easier access to food for most people, at least in this country and largely in the planet, but some of the most toxic and awful things. And just eat some whole foods and drink a lot of water and see what happens.
Right.
It's amazing. But the point being, I was going to make a parallel between diet. We all know, you are what you eat, man. And the research shows that's real clear. I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, but it is. It's like, it's a difference between knowing it here and knowing it here, But when I think about, I've been talking a lot about hope lately, and of course I think a lot about our psychological diet and what we take in and what we allow to come in through the filters of our perception, and the diet of thoughts that we allow, and all that stuff. It's like amazing to me that we allow these automatic negative thoughts, as they sometimes are called, ants, to just slip by unchallenged, unfiltered, and we accept them as 100% true because, after all, it's us. That's me saying that to me, so it must be right? But yet, if Dan said that to me, I would probably want to punch him in his face.
Right.
The things that I say to myself, I wouldn't, but I would be mad, and I would register a protest loudly on your podcast. But no, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? We say things to ourselves, and we accept it whole cloth, uncritically, because it's us. And it's like we need to get a lot better at arguing with ourselves, which sounds like a crazy thing, but it's really an important skill, because the shit you're telling yourself about yourself is a lot not true.
Yeah.
And it's really damaging and limiting, and it's keeping you down, I can tell you with 100% certainty.
And it's detrimental. It's either it's detrimental to you, but it's detrimental to the people around you, and just the energy in general. And it's that whole thing. It's like, look, there's only so much we got. And it's like, and you can either take what we got and you can turn that to the negative, or you can push that and you can turn it positive and try to put that out there, because the negative is not, it's not, especially if it's something that we can't change. If it's something we don't have any control over, the only thing we have control over is our own actions and how we react and what we do with the things that we were given in our lives. So
that's
if we
profound.
can take that, I mean? It's like, if we can take that, it's like, thinking negative doesn't do any damn good thing for anybody.
No.
Yeah. C.S. Lewis said,
so it's like, if I'm gonna, if it's a waste of my time to be negative, then I'd much rather waste my time being positive and making other people smile, and not stressing out or not worrying or it's like, I could say, man, those are ugly shoes, or I could say, oh my God, your freaking hair is gorgeous. Yeah. It's those little things, and it's like, but we, when we start taking on that form and realize it's very much that psychological diet, and it completely changes how everything happens.
I was going to say, C.S. Lewis said, or something like, very close to, I don't need to be taught much of anything, but I need to be constantly reminded of what I already know. And what you said, I think, is something that we need to constantly remind ourselves of, which is this idea. And I've been reading this thing about the Stoic philosophers, and you can boil it all down to their wisdom is basically do what you can where you are with what you have. And it's like what you just said. And if you get outside of that realm, if you start to take on and obsess over and ruminate and whatever about all the stuff that's outside of that realm, then that's a recipe for anxiety and really mental health challenges that are unnecessary. Do what you can with what you have where you are, and that applies to your own mental health, I think, because there's so much we can do for our own mental health that we just don't do. It's like maybe because we've been convinced that it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
That we don't have
Shit
one
happens.
of the worst
Shit
sayings
happens.
ever.
It is. It is.
And
One of the
it only is what it is on the outside.
But that's
with
defeat.
other
That's
people.
taking defeat. It
Yeah.
is what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's plaques everywhere, memes everywhere.
It's a tautology that means nothing. It's a circularity. It's bullshit.
Right,
It is what
right.
it is. Oh, thank you for that,
Yeah.
Law of
Aristotle.
attraction is a very big deal.
It isn't what
Law
it
of
is.
attraction is a real flipping thing.
You can
Right.
freaking
Right.
change.
Social psychology bears it out. I mean, there's definitely.
We made a joke about you being half the man you used to be, but it's actually kind of true. Since last time we saw you, you have lost a bunch of weight.
A lot,
What
yeah.
what was your approach? Because we've talked to several people who
Mm-hmm.
you either have something that you're getting ready to tell us what your approach was, or you talk to Paula Mason. One of the two.
I did not talk to Paula.
Everybody that loses weight talks to Paula Mason.
I didn't until after I was well into the journey, but
Right.
turns out we're doing the same thing.
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's really about everything that you have heard your whole life about healthy habits, and that's the way I like to think of it and talk about it. Is doesn't matter what the product is, whatever you're using, it's all about healthy habits. And the healthy habits are, and I tried everything. I mean, I wrote a song about it. It's called "I Miss My Old Metabolism." Yeah, it's 100% true. Like I tried everything, and I go through all the diets that I tried, all the different surgery all that, and it just kept getting fatter and yo-yo and whatever. And it's like, what this is about is just doing all the things that you should do. And by the way, speaking of that, one of the things I tried was intermittent fasting, and I had no trouble doing that because I really could go all day, just be fine, not eating until dinner or later, because I get hungry at night. That's the only time I get hungry because I'm a night owl, right? But come to find out, I did that for an entire months and months, and actually gained weight by not eating. And so, and in retrospect, now it makes more sense because at least for my physiology, my metabolism, what I was teaching my body, the way I construe it now is what I was teaching my body is I'm starving you,
Right.
So you better hold on to all
I'm gonna
those
store it.
adipose tissue, all the fat that you have stored around your kidneys and your heart and your liver and all that, because you're going to need it because this guy's trying to starve you, But come to find out, what my body needed was me to be gentle with it and to be consistent with it, which is what we need with any good partner, right? And it needed to know that I was going to take care of it, that I was going to feed it a little something regularly all day long. And so that's what the plan is. There's healthy habits. From the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, I have a little something to eat, and when you're in the weight loss phase, which I hit my goal in 8 months. Lost 90 pounds in 8 months.
90
And,
pounds. Wow.
from basically eating a little something, like 100 to 150 calories ish, from the time I wake up within an hour to the time I go to bed, every 2.5 to 3 hours, and one meal a day that's like more of a substantial, like protein and green vegetables. How many times have you heard in your life, you should really eat your vegetables?
Yeah,
Right.
eat
Eat your green vegetables and some lean protein, maybe the size of a pack of cards is a serving.
Your palm of your hand.
The palm of your hand. Turns out that shit's all correct. 100%. And you should drink about a half a gallon of water sometime during the day.
Right.
And you do those two things, by the way, you will lose weight. And I use these products, but my sister who saw my results, and she and her husband are like, how are you doing that? So I told them, we're not going to order that stuff. I'm like,
Right.
okay. So I told her how to do it without it. And she's like, she calls it the ghetto version of the program, but
Right.
it's not. That's a pejorative thing. But it's just eating small, healthy things with a balance of sugar's the devil. So you got to stay away from all the processed sugar, eat whole foods, and give it some time. And guess what? Your energy level goes up, you lose weight, you feel better.
Yeah.
We had Mike McWhorter on here. He said the same thing, and I don't know what his total weight loss was, but he's looking phenomenal too. And he did talk to Paula Mason.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he is doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And it's working.
Yeah, I did. I get to play bass with members only last summer.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like 2-3 months into it, and Steve Mason was like, so what you doing? And I thought like, oh yeah, that's Paula just got her box today of all the fuelings, and I like that too. By the way, I like the language of this program because it's they're called fuelings. Fuelings. You're fueling your body. You got to give it a little something, a little protein, a little little
Boiled
carbs.
eggs. my boiled
fueling,
eggs and my
boiled
nuts
eggs,
and like that's
healthy
what
stuff.
I crave.
Yep.
Like after shows,
fueling. But that's the dynamic tension too, and the thing we have to all come to grips with if we're going to get healthy, I think, is because food is not just fuel. Food is also one of the great pleasures of life.
Yeah.
Right, and we have to treat it as such because it's so infused in all of our rituals and all the stuff that we do. I just had a birthday and I had some cake, but it's one of the great pleasures of life, but it's also fuel. But I have this wonderful analogy that some of the folks, and by the way, this thing I've been doing also includes social support. Lots of support from people saying, "Attaboy, you got this.
Yeah.
Oh, let me know if you need to talk." Because that connection piece is real nourishment and real medicine. But, it's really about just looking at it in a comprehensive way. And because you got to have the mental, you got to have the psychological boost, you got to have the social support, etc. But this analogy that I love was, and these days, of course, with the gas prices, it's painful to bring it up. But it's like when you drive, when you're driving your car, you see a gas station. You don't stop at every gas station and fill up your tank, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to. It's fuel, and you need to get it when you need it, right? It's like when you see food, the old joke, right? See food and eat it.
Seafood.
When you see food, that doesn't mean you got to eat it. You don't have to stop at every Wendy's and get you a spicy chicken sandwich.
Right.
But you gotta look at it as fuel. And then balance that with the fact that it's also one of the great pleasures of life, and have the discipline to be able to get to your health habits so that you can enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've tried to make May, since it's my birthday month, like, okay, I'm gonna have a piece of cake. I'm gonna have a slice of pie, maybe some pasta, which I haven't had in a year. But that's celebratory. It's not my regular diet, and it can't be, or I'll just be big as a house.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live like that.
Louis
no
C.K.
more.
has a bit about, I'm 47 years old and I just found out that food is fuel. He talks about that. It's like,
True. What the heck?
It's funny.
Well, Jim Rohn used to say, if the phrase "an apple a day keeps the doctor away," like if it was true, would you do it?
Right.
Like just the simplest thought sometimes, where like some of those old phrases, like the one you just mentioned a minute ago about the serving being a deck of cards.
Yeah.
If those things all have come from somewhere that is probably true,
Right.
and yet we still just choose not to do it.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna have this burger.
My song is. I was like, this is before I got into this, and I was like up and down, and I had COVID like 2 years ago and lost this weight, and then it all came back on over the course of the winter. I was like, what have I got to do for the love of sweet Lord Jesus to ever get healthy? And come to find out, it was all these things that you've really known, you just haven't done.
Yeah.
But this song, it's got like I'm one of the things, I still hate mirrors. I hate seeing myself on camera. I hate seeing photos. But it was even worse 90 pounds ago, way worse. But the song goes like this. It says, I'm hating all these mirrors with their constant criticism. It just makes me miss my old metabolism. Hating this.
True that.
And then I go through all of the things that I tried. And
I had
other
great
people tried.
metabolism when I was unhappy.
Right.
I could eat anything and I was 118 pounds. It's like, whatever, cool. I'll eat
Fat
Reese's.
and happy.
All I
There's
eat
something
is
to that.
Reese's cups all day, but this metabolism's great. I can't keep food down. I'm happy. Yeah. Yay. Am I happy or thin? That's my choice.
Yeah, and that is always. I think that's
It's-
the whole thing. It's like it. having
Happy
that
fat. It's like-
comparison, but it's like comparing that to your happiness and being thin is also an issue because
Yeah.
not everybody is.
But he's proving that you can do
Yeah.
both.
But not all of us. Like that's the whole thing. It's like
Right?
You know, I mean, it's we all do have our different shapes and different sizes. And it's what is your concept of thin?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like, is
Yeah.
your concept of thin actually attainable for you and for your individual body type?
Right. Exactly.
Because it's like society and media has deemed this right or that right or this is what thin is or
Yeah.
this is what pretty is.
Trust me.
You know what I mean?
You look at the BMI chart. I'm still way off of my recommended BMI.
Really?
For my height. Yeah. It's like it's
And
crazy.
I'm 5 pounds under mine. I'm
Strange.
135 pounds. I weigh 135 pounds. I'm not quite 5'7", and I am supposed to weigh, well, anywhere from 135 to 140, they say, for my height and weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I am very comfortable now, but you know how I felt, where I felt the most comfortable? At 155. Because I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Look at this.
She all
But you
curvy.
know why?
She all curvy.
Because it's like I felt more comfortable visually.
Yeah.
Visually. Now,
Works
not,
both ways.
not
Yeah.
physically. Because visually, I was the opposite of what a lot of women are. You know, I was the opposite. The women that I admired, the women I looked up to,
Yeah.
were 5'4", 160 pounds, and have hips and curves and boobs. And so it was the women that I wanted to. Marilyn Monroe was my girl. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So
Just,
that's not attainable for me.
Yeah.
Just a couple
That
comments
is
before
not
we
who I am.
kind of think about wrapping up. Julia says, "Amen, Paul Thomlinson. I am not a fan of that saying. That is what it is. I get it, but I don't like to say that said anyway." And then she says, "And having said all this being said, I'm eating my Nutrisystem snack. I miss my old metabolism too. Sodas and cheeseburgers call out to me." It's 100% true.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, like you said, you know exactly what you need to do
Yeah.
to fix it.
Yeah, you have a basal metabolic rate.
Yeah.
You have a certain amount that you're going to burn off just by existing, breathing, and and then you need to figure out what that is, and there's just no way around it. Do it in a healthy way, and you got to get under that in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're just constantly deprived.
You
And
can't
that's why I
rob
think-
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta keep feeding yourself, fueling yourself, and
give you that happiness that food does give you.
It does, and there are ways to do that.
Yeah.
It takes a little creativity and a lot of stick-to-itiveness.
Stick-to-itiveness.
But yeah, so worried.
that a real
It's a
word?
neologism. I just I didn't make it up, but
I like it.
it's a mash.
To-itiveness. Are you thinking about wrapping up?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
I have a
shit.
question before we leave, Dr. Thomlinson.
Uh-oh.
Can narcissism be cured?
Oh my God.
We have another hour? Is this another hour?
Yeah.
Boom.
In my experience, no. It's now the trait of narcissism. I think all of us, have some of it. And as it should be. In terms of, the ability, think about Narcissus and where that even comes from, that beautiful story. In a way, it's beautiful. It's like, until he, basically can't tear himself away, and it becomes pathological. And
Right.
sort of that line between, like one of my old professors used to always say, psychopathology is just normal development gone awry. And narcissism is really just like a bloated self-love, right? And that's really, when I think about the narcissists that I know really well, the narcissists that have been in my life very personally, I think about, and the only way I can have compassion for them, because they're so obnoxious and abusive, is to really think about the fact that they feel so empty, that they're so, so devoid of self-worth in reality, that they have to puff themselves up and really, they have to have a supply, narcissistic
have to feed
supply
off
from
of it.
somebody. And so that's the only way I can really kind of, as a human being, have compassion for them. Clinically speaking, we're not very good. And what's really makes this difficult? How do you do a study, for example, on what used to be narcissistic personality disorder? How do you do a study on its treatment success when they never come to therapy, unless
Bingo.
they're court ordered?
Unless they're court ordered.
Which
They
also
don't
means
have
they're
a
probably
problem.
antisocial personality disorder, and they're also doing all kinds of
Right.
fucked up shit.
Right.
They don't. They don't have the self-awareness. They don't
don't.
look at themselves, and so and also they know how to manipulate. So therefore,
Yeah.
if they do go to therapy, they'll say what they need to say
Yeah.
to get the hell out of there.
Yep.
And it's just a sad. I agree with you. Narcissism is very toxic, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
It's incredible. It's in the water, it seems,
Yeah.
and well, maybe not that. It's just that it's getting such play, and of course, narcissists. There's really good studies on this whole idea that narcissists actually tend to be, rise to higher levels in organizations. There are a lot of CEOs that are narcissists. You have to have some pretty bulletproof self-worth to think that you're worthy of being president of the United States or being, a senator or being a CEO or whatever. So there's that tension again between, healthy self-worth that allows you the energy and the what it takes to succeed in that, without going over the line. Like the scripture says, let no man think more highly of themselves than he should. That's really the essence. How highly should I think of myself?
Right.
I should think that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I should think that I can make an incredible impact on people, and then I should not be an asshole about it.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yep. Simple. That's
it's
simple.
pretty simple.
I don't think the scripture says that.
It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't.
All right.
But- Except in the new standard.
The new standard.
New standard flex your buttocks version.
Flex your buttocks version.
The Book of Paul.
That other Paul. That other Paul.
The
other
other
Paul.
Paul.
It's knowing your power and doing something you good with it.
The other
Knowing
Paul.
your power as just
I love it.
as a person and a human in general.
Well,
And then doing the best you can.
Man, that's so good. My dear departed mentor, Todd Scheibel, used to always say that's what people fear the most, is knowing how powerful they are. They run from that maybe more than anything. And by the way, I'm going to do a pitch again. Take the VIA survey, the Values and Action Survey, and find out why you're powerful. Find out what makes you tick. Find out the constellation of character strengths that makes you the human being that you are. Every person that's ever been attracted to you, every time you've ever been effective in doing anything in life, it's probably because of one of those top 5 things that you will learn from taking that survey.
Is that
Well, I'll give you this. We'll
Yeah,
talk
we
about
talked
this
about
when we
it
get off
earlier.
here.
Yeah, it's a cool, and it's not one of those pop psychology things. It's actually based on some really good science, and I highly recommend it. It can change people's lives. I used it one time. I really became aware of how powerful it is because I used it in a therapy session once. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you look at this, and you're going to take this. You're going to bring it back next session. We're going to talk about it, and we just sat down and talked about her top 5 strengths, all the amazing things about her, and I just sort of gave her a little narrative about. I bet that means that you are, that people see you at one of your top 5 is curiosity. I bet that means that you're really cool to sit next to on a plane because you ask questions and people, and not bug the shit out of them, but that you ask questions that make people feel like you're interested in their lives and da-da-da-da. And by the time we got done just talking about those things, she was in tears, and it was like nobody's ever told me those things. I just expected to come in and have you tell me all the things that are wrong with me.
Right.
Yeah,
And by the way, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty aware of my faults. And I don't need anybody probably to tell me any more. I mean, maybe if I develop really new ones, but I'm pretty pretty hip to the old ones.
At this
I
point.
don't need to be reminded of them, but I could really use a reminder now and then that I've got some good stuff going
Yes,
on too.
everyone.
Yeah.
And all of us need that.
I know 4 people that I'm going to forward that information
Good.
to. Like I have in my head right now. I
Good.
have 'em- I'm not going to say their names, but I have 4 people in my head that I'm going to send that to.
It's powerful medicine. And I ain't gonna lie about it. It's powerful medicine.
Absolutely.
And, it's
And
good
we
stuff.
add that you should talk to people.
Talk to people.
Do everything you can to talk
Talk
to
to
people.
Meet people.
You ain't got to have a podcast.
Meet new people.
You
You
don't
don't
Just
have to.
sit down and talk, and don't be distracted
don't
by
have to have a
dancing or
podcast.
karaoke or live music. Literally just eye to eye.
Sit down.
And
talk.
that old, seek first to understand.
go.
and
Seek
then be
first to
understood,
understand.
and then be understood. In that order.
Yeah.
You do that, you'll be a pretty good listener.
I got one final question before we end the show for you.
Yeah.
If you were in a vat full of diarrhea up to your neck,
Yeah. Is this a would you rather?
and someone threw a bucket of vomit at your face,
Yeah.
would you duck?
Say, where's Dan? Give me a straw. Give me 2 straws.
Two straws.
You know what though? Last night, speaking of Dan, and I told Josie this before I came over. It's like before I went to sleep last night. I was like, I knew it was going to be here, and I was like, I had something like I had a venting of the spleen. I had something I was going to say. It was going to take you to task, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was. I thought today I was like, what was it? The small headstock thing? No, that's not serious enough. It was something, and it was going to be so good, and I cannot
Oh my
remember
gosh.
at all
I love it.
what
Yes.
it was. So.
The
More
Lord
later.
takes care of me.
More later.
So at the beginning of this show, we talked about where you're playing and all that. So you can rewind.
Yeah.
You can go back and rewind and listen to all that. So it's all there. And
but the
also,
Cellar on June 4th
the
with
Cellar.
Innuendo, and I'll be playing there as a solo. They're doing solo at SBC at the Springfield Blue Crow. I'm doing a solo
fantastic.
thing from 5 to 7 on the 3rd, so 3rd and 4th.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
also
Very
go
cool.
check your podcast out.
Yeah,
gonna ask.
compasshealth.org. I'm doing these podcasts. That
Is
are
it only
basically-
on that website, or can you find it?
I think they're on. We're talking about like doing the syndication thing or whatever you
Right.
guys
Cool.
do, but this really all has just been through us, and we have our YouTube channel. But
Okay, I'll
that's
post that
only
link
available.
in the
Okay.
notes of this
Perfect.
when we put it on
Yeah.
YouTube.
I
It's on
started
YouTube now.
during the pandemic, just talking about how do I apply what we know about psychology to getting through these weird times we're living in and living through, as I say.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And one final thing, I'm going to put it back on camera 4 over here, and we're going to play a song. But just real quick,
yeah.
what's in that picture? What are we
Lots of
looking
stuff.
at here?
So that's my gal Josie on her horse Freedom. That's my babies, Aiden and Presley. That's a flamingo to represent my yacht rock band, Yacht
Nice.
the Groove. And that guitar is sort of one of my other art projects I did. There's on the pick guard. There's one of my favorite poems. It's Wallace Stevens. It says, "They said you have a blue guitar. You do not play things as they are." He replied, "Things as they are changed upon the blue guitar," which is a really wonderful, like, psychological thing about like how our thoughts create our realities and so forth. But so that's the blue guitar. That rose is for Josie Rose and Presley Rose, my daughter, and my dear departed adopted Italian grandmother Rose McGrath.
Lots of roses in your life.
My mama's name was Fern, so that's the Fern.
Cool.
And Jewel there's a jewel on the pick guard, and that my son's name is Aiden, and that in Gaelic that means warmth of the home or fiery. So the little fire is for him, and each of those is a gemstone for the month for all my siblings, many of which are now have left us. So each of them is their birthstone. All the way from Sunny, Donnie, Mark, Mel, Paul, Lisa, Tom, Howie, Marvin, and so it's all of their.
That's awesome.
They're
That's
all
beautiful.
So my family and most of the things that I love are right there somewhere.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
so
love it. Dr.
it's my
Paul,
thing.
thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for being here and,
I love
and
you
taking
guys.
the time
You're the best.
to hang with us. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for crashing.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Love you.
Good
Best
crash.
We wouldn't have crashed like that. We would have just given hugs and walked away. But that's
You're,
a therapy
you're
session.
welcome.
So, of course, this is my turn to say, if you want to support the show, it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen, all the ways you can send us money. Send us money so we can keep doing this and keep updating our studio and making it really cooler and cooler and cooler. And what are we going to play now, Dan?
We're going to do the I Miss My Old Metabolism.
Oh, of course.
All
You need
right.
to unmute me.
All right. Unmute
Why
it.
not?
Here we go.
I queued it up.
Thank you, Paul Thomlinson. This has been great.
Thank
been
you
great.
guys.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Tell you what, kids, you better enjoy your metabolism while it lasts, cause it sure goes away, and it goes away fast. Metabolism! I'm hating all these mirrors with the constant criticism, cause all they do is make me miss my old metabolism, miss my old metabolism, my old metabolism. I'm hating all these mirrors with the constant criticism, cause all they do is make me miss my old metabolism, miss my old metabolism, my old metabolism. I failed Slim Fast, Atkins, and Protein Power Plan, and Paleo just made me into a chubby caveman. Scarsdale, Beverly Hills, South Beach, and Sonoma, every single blue zone, same thing over and over. Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, and Nutrisystem too. I tried eating only Subway and only cabbage soup. I'm hating all these mirrors with the constant criticism, cause all they do is make me miss my old metabolism, miss my old metabolism, my old metabolism. I followed good advice, Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Phil, but it didn't make me skinny, so I started shots and pills. Tried HCG and Trim Spa, good old Dexedrine, Wellbutrin by prescription, but kept busting out my jeans. Lap band, bypass, sleeve gastrectomy. We got them yo-yo diets, now try yo-yo surgery. I'm hating all these mirrors with the constant criticism, cause all they do is make me miss my old metabolism, miss my old metabolism, my old metabolism. I'm hating all these mirrors with the constant criticism, cause all they do is make me miss my old metabolism, miss my old metabolism, my old metabolism. Blood type sugar busters, check your DNA. Low fat, low carb, what's the best way? Hypnotism, keto, or a master cleanse? Grapefruit, body for life, the fun just never ends. Daniel fast, Bible diet, what would Jesus eat? A million guys on YouTube are convinced they got him beat. Metabolism, my metabolism, my metabolism, my metabolism, metabolism, my metabolism, my metabolism, my metabolism, metabolism, my metabolism, my metabolism.
Sitting is the